Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus.
Synctank.
All right.
What an entrance.
Yeah. You're muted right off the bat. Come on.
What a great start.
Dude, this is terrible. Oh, you can't hear me? Really?
We can hear you now, yeah.
It feels like it's going to be
Okay.
a bottle episode. That's what it feels like.
Is
It's
yeah, if
today's
you thought I was
actually
gonna-
best hits episode. We're just going to do clips.
This is the best of.
I wanted to talk about Princess Diana, but it's probably a bad idea. So maybe just Wizard Day.
Why? Why is she mentioned in the files? What's happening?
Surely, right? You know, the big one was Bannon's involvement with World of Warcraft gold. You saw it, right?
I did see that. You sent me that. I wouldn't have seen that if it wasn't for you, though.
You know, speaking of games and speaking of words that sound like Bannon, do you guys remember Jeff Gannon from the early 2000s, the reporter that... Anyways, I'd been trying to figure out what that guy's name was for the longest time. Someone finally put a little comment in. What a wild story, right? That was totally Johnny Gosh.
You think Jeff Gannon is Johnny Gosh? Johnny Gosh? It's the same guy.
Might have been in the same room as him, I think is very viable.
Wow. Okay.
Based on
Yeah,
just
I mean,
absolute pure speculation, of course. No facts or evidence to back any of that up.
Oh, who would
You
need
got it
that?
from the whisper in the woods. What happened?
Do you,
Jeff
do you
Gannon was
remember
the
this guy, though?
homosexual prostitute
Yeah.
who used to do Republicans. Remember, he was right? Wasn't
Yeah,
he,
he got the limelight because people started wondering how come this one guy keeps getting all these questions of the president in these like small little media gatherings where like not many people are getting questions. Why this guy? And they start peeling back the layers and they find out he's a DC callboy, and then the internet starts assuming that he was related to like some really early Epstein related type stuff, and then he disappeared and I've never heard from him since.
Huh.
we don't know where he's at. Like he's off. He just disappeared. Like
Yeah,
really?
Uncle Jeff, your family is concerned and looking for you. Please reach out.
I never thought about that. I mean, I never like looked for him again after that. I just assumed
Right,
like
'cause the heat came on and it was just like, get this guy out of here. And that was it.
I'll tell you what, if you say a single solitary word about this to anybody, there'll be the most dire consequences to you and your family.
I mean, the Republicans doing gay stuff, is that really so? Is that so weird? I guess that is. I don't know. It seemed like pretty much what we all assume the Republicans do, right? Like Democrats, they like to like chase black people out of neighborhoods on horseback with white little hats, and
Oh no.
Republicans, you know, do meth off the butts of gay
If you want to
prostitutes.
get into that, like Barney Frank also got off pretty easy. Like I bet you Barney Frank's name is in some places. He didn't get invited to Epstein's club, but I guarantee you he went to some clubs that were probably like Epstein adjacent. He actually had one of the call boys living out of like one of his DC apartments in the 90s, I think.
He's one of the gayest men in DC, and that says a lot. It's true. I mean, but what isn't that the point? Aren't we fighting for our freedom with Barney Frank? He's one of the most American characters.
I guess if you find Harvey Milk to be a hero, you might find Barney Frank to be a hero. I'll say it that way.
I don't hate Harvey Milk exactly. I guess as someone from California, I think it's important.
Him and his 14-year-old boyfriend, they're totally cool.
Oh yeah, I mean, all right.
Those were wild times.
He has an airport terminal named after him. He has multiple plaques and streets.
A very popular human trafficking airport, I might add. The international.
Just a coincidence, I'm sure.
I imagine there must be.
Well,
I mean, like he was a Democrat though, so that's the thing that makes like Barney Frank stand out. I think he wouldn't have gotten the same rapport if it weren't for the fact that he was a Democrat, because their parties were different at the time. It was, I think, pretty well known that Republicans had log cabin Republicans had aisle party, right, with these Christian right ministers. There was all the other race, the Christian right ministers and the Republicans came together, and meth fueled. It's the other stuff they use, right? Amyl nitrate, right? That was like the thing. It was like amyl nitrate was almost always sold out in DC during Republican.
I like the way you're saying it. Sounds like anal nitrate, which also kind of gets the point across.
It's the principle of the thing, as they say. But you guys, I'm sorry, I want to kind of jump topics here a little bit. Do you guys watch Mad Men? Did you watch Mad Men?
Yeah, of course.
You watched all of Mad Men?
Yeah, American phenomenon. It's cultural, one of the last cultural bastions that we've got to relate to each other. Yeah.
Well, I wanted Bill to come on today, but I think he had a long night last night. You got to understand, like, this is like pretty much my only real day off from the day that I do Synctank, and I myself have a tendency to stay up pretty damn late when I know that the next day I don't technically have to work. But Bill does the same on his day off. But we've been watching Mad Men from two different sides. So I was watching the latter part of the seasons, and he is watching the earlier part of the seasons, namely I think season 2, 3, and 4, and in
black and white.
No, he actually wasn't watching it in black and white, which is very rare for Bill these days. Almost everything he watches, he wants to watch in black and white. But there's crazy symbolism in Mad Men. I mean, we did a Synctank, not a Synctank, excuse me, and Always Record years ago, but I think when we did that Always Record, the show wasn't actually technically finished yet. So now that it's all done, there's things you can connect from the end of the show to the beginning of the show that I didn't really realize until I was like revisiting it. And it's kind of like, what the hell? Like, every episode of Mad Men at the very, very, very end, now they like jump. So like if you're streaming it, they'll jump past the end of the credits, right? Like it's just like goes to the next episode, right? But the last thing that you see at the end of every Mad Men episode is a major arcana of the Sun card with Wiener. He's another Wiener, the guy who came up with the show, right? But me and Bill were going over the particulars through the show as the characters relate to the major arcana of the tarot. And it works so freaking well. Like it's a larger conversation, but like I can see how, like, so you guys remember like the thing with John Hamm's character of Don Draper is that his name is Dick. His real name is Dick. Why is his real name Dick? Well, he's the child of a prostitute who had this, anger towards his father. And she puts a curse on his dad, and the curse is very peculiar because she says, "I'm going to boil his dick in pig fat." And when she says that, it's not long after, right? I think it's even the same episode that she brings the baby to the door, and she says its name is Dick. So that his name is Dick because he's symbolically his father's dick, and so like the whole show, I would argue, is symbolically is Don Draper being purified, right? So like he is his father's dick being boiled in pig fat, and so he goes from being basically the Tower. He's Mars energy, right? Like he came from Mars, right? And so his whole life is like him basically like nullifying the Kleepo, like he's peeling everything away. And at the end, when he ends up at Esalen, now he is the son. He's the crowned and conquering child. It's the Rider-Waite son that appears at the end of every episode. So he like is that child, and there'll be like weird indicators all the way through. Like if you look at Peggy's wall, she has a painting of sunflowers. Like if you know that card, it's a child surrounded by sunflowers. You know what I mean? Like it's just because it's the sun, but it's really weird. Like her name being Peg, even you're like, well, Peggy literally means pearl, and then you have the parable of they have different
Pearl of great price, pearls and swines.
Right, and but if you've seen Knight of Cups, it's speaking to a allegory that's used that's applied to the tarot, or that uses the tarot to express itself, which is similar to the hero's journey, but it has to do with that. Have you ever seen Knight of Cups? It was with Christian Bale and Natalie Portman, kind of an art film from that guy that did Days of Heaven and all that. This
Terrence Malick's movie, Nine of Cups.
Terrence
Oh
Malick.
Yeah, for sure.
So in this movie, they're talking about the prince that's in Egypt. That
I've had
is
powder stuck in my head for the last week too, for some reason.
Oh shit! Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
The movie powder.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I know, like that's like you should never be thinking about that movie. But I do sometimes.
Christina with the forks. Yeah, of course. Come on.
I think about the deer. I'm always thinking about when the guy shoots the deer and then he puts his hand on the guy and he feels the deer's soul leaving the deer's body, and he feels, the hunter, cries, because all of a sudden it's like, because I just was watching Young Indiana Jones, and there's the scene. I mean, literally just before this, I was watching him play baseball with Krishnamurti, which is, a sync in and of it's a cycle sync for us, really. That's something that comes us back to, I think that wasn't always record where we originally brought up the Krishnamurti episode.
Is
right?
It probably that sounds true. Like, was that one of the episodes that
like episode 3
that George Lucas actually directed? It's like the only other thing he's directed other than following Star Wars.
The first episode 1 of Star Wars, right? Because it was the thing after his wife and him divorced. He only directed episode 4 and episode 1, 2, and 3 of Star Wars. 5 and 6 are directed by other people. He didn't want to direct it himself because he nearly had a nervous breakdown making the first Star Wars. But then he got divorced, and his mother had died when he was young, or had like an invalid problem. And he's thinking, man, now that I have all this money, I wish I could, instead of regretting your life and thinking what I could have done with my life, it's like now I can go back and kind of Gestalt therapy process what I would have done if I could have had any life I would have wanted to have. And so he goes around the world, and directing Young Indiana Jones was certainly more of a therapy for him than it was entertainment for us, but it was an entertaining show. But I saw the episode, I think yesterday, where he goes on a safari with Theodore Roosevelt, and Theodore Roosevelt is supposedly a wildlife advocate when he's bringing to extinction these endangered African species. And there's this one antelope which is nearly extinct, and they can't find it. So young Indiana Jones wanders off and meets a Sans Bushman child, learns his language, spends the entire week with this boy, and figures out the environment and the ecosystem. And there's a particular gourd, a root vegetable that is indicative of these antelope. And without it, now that it's dead in this area, there will be no antelope in this area. And they're already endangered because thousands of them have been killed by hunters. So he leads Theodore Roosevelt to find the antelope, and they shoot 2 or 3 of them. And then he jumps on the gun, young Indiana Jones, and stops Theodore Roosevelt from killing the other antelope. Because he's like, you've killed enough. That's enough of them. Right. And for whatever reason, that made me think of Powder. And I just can't.
Because you're watching Powder do that to that hunter.
Right.
And
right. Yeah.
I had another thread on Mad Men too. Just if you're rewatching it, because I'm still working on it, but I feel that there's way too many consistencies between Bewitched and Mad Men, because Don Draper and Darren Stevens, they literally both work at Madison Avenue during the exact same time period,
Right.
in the same way that the beginning of, maybe this might be a stretch analogy, but the beginning of Natural Born Killers, right? It's sort of a sitcom, but it's a sitcom as if it were taking place in the real world. I almost see Mad Men as being that version of Bewitched. Like, Darren is Don Draper, and that Elizabeth Montgomery is January Jones.
Right, but isn't that the thing with Bewitched, that they changed out the actor halfway through the show or something? Like,
yeah, he had back pain. Like, he was struggling.
Whatever it is, you have two guys being the same guy,
which is also what happens in Mad Men.
Right. So on some symbolic level, I can totally get down with that. Yeah.
And I believe the
also
second one was Dick York. So there's your Dick.
Yeah,
there's the Dick. Yeah.
I was about to say, but I was going to say it's interesting. Darren Stevens is also a contemporary cricket, just kind of as the episode type.
He's a temporary what?
There.
He's a temporary what? You're glitchy.
He's a cricket player.
Oh, right. Which ties us back.
There is an
to,
actual
India and.
The real Darren. You mean a real Darren Stevens that's a cricket player? Got you.
Yeah.
What was that Mad Men joke where he's like, "Oh yeah, Dick York, Dick Sargent, Sergeant York." Yeah, as if we wouldn't notice. I love when he says, "Yeah, as if we wouldn't notice." Like the whole thing is just like planned, and we're not supposed to like put the pieces together. You know, there's something very like Rosemary's Baby at the Scrabble set with that. You know what I mean? Like,
but isn't that the deal that Dick York was replaced by Dick Sargent? Yeah. Okay, we agree. Okay, that's the point.
So all dicks,
just
all dicks, all day.
Yeah. Right. But so I wanted to say, like, if you're going through it, you got Sterling's character, you know, I forget that actor's name, not that it matters, but you remember the white-haired guy, the very white-haired guy that works with Don. Like, that guy is totally temperance, because he has 1 foot on land and 1 foot in the water. Like, he can go to orgies, he can like do all the psychedelics, but he's still getting his job done, and he's still like there, just still singular focused, you know, like that Sagittarius.
He's usually got his suit on, like, even if he
went.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, even when he goes to pick up his daughter at the commune or something, it's like he can hang, but he still has temperance. He still has his breaking point. So like, when his daughter like leaves in the middle of the night to go have sex with that hippie, when he's like sleeping on the hay in the barn, he's like, okay, no, now this is it. So he's like, he can exist in that world, but he does have an envelope. That's kind of what temperance is about, right? So like, and also just that he can handle his shit. It's not that he doesn't do it, because that's the thing, is that Don goes like cold turkey, and then he has to like sneak the bottle. You know, like he can't really do what Sterling Cooper can do. But I don't know. I was just like, that's one example. But the thing is, like, Peggy, the whole show centers around Peggy. Like, she shows up at her first day of work, the first episode, right? And then like the last episode is her not just getting promoted, like she becomes the center stone. She starts out as a literal cornerstone off in the corner, and then she makes her way to the center of the whole archway. And people take it as this is like a statement on women's lib or something. I think it goes deeper than that. I think there's something like super esoteric in Mad Men that relates.
He is a Scientologist, right? So there's already an esoteric element to the main character of the show being an adept of Scientology.
Sure. Yeah. And you know, throughout the seasons, like they'll like, I think it's even the first season when it's like there's the Zionist who's like looking to have like, oh, it's Will. Hey, Will. Who's like looking to do like kind of like advertising for Israel. So like, I don't know, at the time it's like it's still the 1950s at that point, but like they don't address it again, like PR for Israel. Like it happens at the beginning of the show and then they just leave it. But they do that with a lot of things where you're like, oh, where it feels like they're getting more into the Bernaysian side of it, and then they'll like kind of hint at it.
The show starts, Mad Men starts out, and the first 2 or 3 seasons, it's again, this is like Bewitched, right? The first 2 or 3 seasons, it's about the job and it's about the ad campaigns, and it really gets you in. But then as they build the characters, it becomes less and less. And then you've got seasons where you don't hear a single person make a single pitch the entire time.
Right. So like, I didn't laugh as much the first time that I saw it. I don't remember like laughing a lot, but I laugh so much now when I watch it, because there's a level of humor in it that it kind of, I don't know, I just was more focused in the drama And now, like, I've kind of removed myself from the drama because I'm looking at it from a different perspective. And I also think you're supposed to drink when you watch Mad Men, like, because you're supposed to be like in the first person of the people in the show. Like, everybody's drinking, so it's like, I wouldn't suggest treating Mad Men like a drinking game. Like, every time they take a drink, you do, because you'll be flat on your face probably. But I will say that there's something about the beer goggles.
This show did make me order what is it, an old fashioned. I must have ordered an old fashioned at least 4 or 5 times because of this show. I still hate them. I've never once had an old fashioned that I liked even a little bit.
Right. I
Really?
don't know. I mean, Joan in her,
like
of
a little bit
herself is a good
orange.
reason to watch. She's not a real redhead, which makes her like the Scarlet Woman, you know. But like, I don't know. It's weird. Will,
did you watch Mad Men?
Oh yeah, I think we've talked about it a bunch on back in the day and like
I did the exact same thing. I'm like, oh yeah, back on
Always
Synctank.
record.
No, always record. Yeah.
I'm like winning by doing that. I feel bad, but good.
Well, it's hard. Like
I'll
I
always
was trying to
record 42
explain
minutes.
synchromysticism to somebody, and it's like, well, it's basically turned into shorthand sync. But because of that, you have like the sync movie, the sync tank, the sinkhole, the kitchen sink. Like everything's kind of
Kitchen
like,
sink.
yeah,
Yeah.
everything's just
Sink
the
boat,
word
yes.
sync.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like we use sync like the word.
So
surf.
lucky it didn't get trademarked.
Why was I just thinking
You
about
know, that was
Smurf?
my nickname
Oh
in high
yeah.
school, in junior high. Smurf.
Oh, that makes absolute and
That's
total
who I
sense.
was.
Yeah.
I was Smurf because I dyed my hair blue, and then I missed blue, like crazy hair day. Came to school on a normal day with a white beanie, and then my face and hands were still blue, and that was kind of it forever. I mean, if you go to Santa Cruz, people still call me Smurf. So
I feel like it was just an excuse for you to wear a Phrygian cap and then hide the real reason that you were trying to incite like liberalism.
Yeah.
it's true. I mean, like egalite and fraternite they were ambiguous ideas back then, you know.
Well, you were
Halt and
talking
Catch
about-
Fire was like the sequel. Sorry, go ahead.
You were talking about before the call. You were mentioning that the Midwest is like Germany, and then you're going into the reasons why, and you were describing what
Thomas
Midwest
was
people-
saying it was like Germany. I was saying it's more German than Germany. I mean, Germany's more like Turkish or something now anyway, right? You know, I mean, unless you go to like Minnesota where you have Muslim prayer hour at 5 a.m. and people are still doing like, you know, there's a lot of Somalis now, if you didn't hear about that in the news. But generally, the Midwest is where all of the Scandinavians and Germans emptied out, right? They all dumped them there. You know?
I feel like America got sold in schools as a melting pot, but it was more of like a seed bank.
Totally.
Oh,
Especially
that was
for the
Epstein's
Scandinavians. Ben
philosophy on
Franklin.
the whole thing. I think he referred to it as a seed bank. Yeah.
Ben Franklin thought that the Swedish and the Danes and Norwegians were white and delightsome. It wasn't just a Mormon terminology. Ben Franklin wanted to bring in as many Scandinavians as possible. And it's interesting because when people think, you know, the German, I think there's like a Disneyfication where the Germans are this blonde, blue-eyed people when they're not. I mean, there are some, but that's really Swedish people, you know, and Danish
Right.
people. Germany's a bunch of like, they look like Will, you know.
Right. Where I was going with that in the first place was that Scandinavian people are essentially Smurfs. And that's why the
true.
Smurf album was one of their absolute top selling albums of all time. They're crazy about the Smurfs over there. They live in their houses, feel like Smurf houses. Like the way that they treat you is very much like Smurf philosophy, you know, like, it's a certain Smurf mentality. Yeah.
Yes, it's Yanteism. I was thinking about this the other day as well, because we have Maoism and Marxism, Stalinism, and then there's this sort of Yanteism. And Yanteism is the rule of Yante that you are not to think you are better than anyone else. You're not to think you know more than we do. You are not to think that you have something to offer that the rest of us need. Right? There are these very particular rules that Scandinavian culture instill to make everyone feel a little less extraordinary, a little more like everyone else, you know, and part of the same island community. And the Smurfs are definitely a utopian ideology with this red bearded Marxist Papa Smurf. And I mean, right. And then this sort of castrated cult. Will, would you disagree? The Smurfs are this, you know, celibate, asexual, you know, it's a little bit more Heaven's Gate than Branch Davidian. But that's, I mean, and they live in mushrooms, right?
Well, Heaven's Gate
Instead of
didn't
having
start
mushrooms
that way,
in
just for
them,
the record. I don't know if the Smurf started that
never,
way either.
it never starts that way. It's always at the end. You're like drinking the Kool-Aid and your dick's cut off, and you're like, wait a second, am I in a cult? Did I just? Oh, they got me again.
Was I supposed to take a right back there?
Right.
You got me. God, chemical castration. Damn it. Cult.
Every
Should've
time.
known.
Are you gonna do some Heaven's Gatekeeping for us today, Will? Is that where we're
What does
headed?
that mean?
That means,
Well,
if we're gonna talk about cults, you're the gatekeeper. You have all more knowledge on cults maybe than most of us do because of your deep study.
Your
of-
extensive.
Well, I mean, of course, like I've
Fresh
said a bunch of
CD
times, the
collection.
whole purpose of investigating the Branch Davidians was because of Sync. It
You love their
wasn't
music.
because I was like interested in.
You
cult.
love their music, though. That's the thing. Same thing with me with my fixation on learning about Charles Manson. I'm just really a fan of his music. I can't help it. It's just like
Look
that
at
guy.
your game, girl. It's a really good song. All right. I mean,
There's a
in
lot of
defense.
really good songs.
In defense of Charles
Never
Manson.
always. No, I was.
It's
I
really,
was.
it's funny. Like, it's easier to defend Charles Manson than Roman Polanski. I find that really interesting.
It is.
Like the world.
It
we live
is
in.
culturally, generally speaking. If you start talking, like people won't be as quick. Trust me. You probably relate to this, Will, when it comes to the related topics. Like there's certain things where you're like, this is so much worse than this. This is bad, and this is even worse. And then you're like, why is it that society, like the way that we're conditioned, like it really speaks to that, not conspiracy theory, but the conspiracy fact about the FBI looking to change the connotation that people held for even the word conspiracy or conspiracy theory following the assassination of John F. Kennedy. It's like you can see evidence of it in people's intense reaction to certain things and non reaction to others. Like it's like there's like if I've experienced that where I'm like, wait, this is bad, but it's not as bad as this. Why is this more forgivable?
I think there's a practical answer to that, and the practical answer I think is that a murderer with a secret, it's a little bit less value to it than if you've got like a sexual deviant with a secret.
Who's the murderer?
Where's the secret?
Well, I guess Charles Manson technically wasn't a murderer either.
Or a secret keeper.
No.
The only secret was that he wasn't allowed to keep a trial because we were convinced that a fair trial, he's a psychic, so he would woo the audience with his
he's a
hypnotism,
pimp.
so he doesn't
The
deserve
guy's
a
a
fair
pimp.
trial.
He's a different type of pimp. He was using certain rules from the pimp playbook and applying them in his group. But at the same time, he's like no pimp like him that we know of really existed before. Like the way that the particulars around how he would keep his people in a certain paradigm. Like they're not allowed to watch television, but they're not allowed to watch television, not so much because of the news or the shows per se, but specifically because of the commercials. He didn't want them to see commercials because he wanted them to embrace what they were experiencing, what they didn't have access to. So
you're saying
he saw it as a threat if they were watching people eating candy bars and stuff and being like, well, we actually want those creature comforts. So that was more his directive. What were you going to say, Will?
No, okay. So let me get this straight. You're saying that Manson was a pimp. That's what Manson.
Yes.
Was. He was
a different
pimp.
kind of pimp,
Like,
but yes, he was a pimp.
He was
nonetheless.
like a white pimp, like Harvey
Technically.
Keitel and Taxi Driver.
I mean, he was a
No,
He was.
no.
I'd say
No,
that he
because
had spent time. Go ahead.
He used the girls to get what deals he could. So he was looking for anything he could get. He didn't give them the impression that he had this intense ambition to be a rock star. He's just like, go with the flow, whatever. But then when he got stood up by one of the Beach Boys, it was Terry Melcher. So Terry Melcher was supposed to come out to the Spawn Ranch and he didn't show up, and he was sitting there all day freaking waiting for him and had like totally like prepared himself, and then like it didn't happen, and then he was just like, and all the girls saw him having a meltdown over it, and they're like, oh, his ego really is in this. Like, and so that was like the first real wake up call for them. And it's one of the reasons why, leading up to the thing, that it's argued that they basically turned on him. So like we did this for you, and they come back and he's like, wait, now I have to go back to jail. Like, this is going to bite me in the ass. Like, I didn't tell you to do this thing. I told you, if you're going to do something, leave something with you or whatever. And then, so my point is that if I start going here and I start qualifying the things around Manson, I guarantee you that most people watching this or listening to me are going to have less of a negative reaction than they would if I was doing the same thing with Polanski. So like, if I want to talk about like objectively, like let's have a perspective on this and go into the details, I'm going to get a reaction from people less when I start going through the particulars around Manson than I would him.
And I'm surprised that Jack Nicholson never catches any strays when Polanski comes up.
That's it. That's huge. And it isn't just Nicholson, but Nicholson's a huge part of it, because it's just like, why is that? Why is it that we have more to go on of what he did and what his lifestyle was than we do Polanski? Polanski had a bad incident at Jack Nicholson's home. I shouldn't say incident, because it almost sounds like the thing just happened on its own, like phenomenon or something. It's like, no, he raped some. Oh, I shouldn't say that. You might get in trouble. I'm supposed to say grape now. Is that the rule? We say grape. I've seen this from the influencer. You can
say he SA'd or assaulted, I think is what they
okay,
like now.
Thank you. Yeah. No, it's just, but yeah. So anyway.
Juicy grape for sure. And it's, it's uncomfortable to stop them.
Uh-oh.
Well, I was gonna say, speaking of grapes, now you can get Hello Fresh with discount code Xirtus, brand new sponsor. I'm sure they're really happy about. Fresh grape.
Kyle brought up that ChatGPT was doing a Super Bowl commercial filmed at his work spot, which I think is interesting. That rather than make the ChatGPT commercial in ChatGPT, they just they paid people, and hundreds of people had to be moved from their work and everything else just to show real humans during the ChatGPT commercial. They wanted a very humanizing ChatGPT. I'm just gonna keep saying that, hoping that cleans up my internet here. Because what I did just say is that I'm gonna be probably 10-20 minutes away from Roman Polanski's chalet in like a week or so, because I'm going to Gstaad, which is in Switzerland. So it is a weird spot to be. I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of other strange people that have escaped to Switzerland. I think that's kind of the point of what's that movie he did about the New Year's? You know what I'm talking about? His New Year's in the Swiss hotel with all the rich people.
Oh yeah, the most recent movie with John Cleese. Yeah, where John Cleese is like, it's like Weekend at Bernie's, but basically but John Cleese is Bernie. He's just dead the whole time, most of the time, and they're just like bringing him around as though he's not dead, trying to cover it up. But yeah, it's weird.
God. Also, so about a week ago, I met a 93-year-old German man who had been born, I think, right as the Nazis invaded Poland. So he grew up like in the beginning of the Reich into the end of the Reich. Like he was, I think, about 13 or 14. He just missed being put in a tank. You know what I mean? Like as like an adolescent boy. And he's married to a woman who's about 10 or 15 years younger than him. So she's got to be 75, 80, right? 80. I think he's like 93. She's like 80. But it was interesting talking to him because he's running around, I think he's a little deaf in one ear, but probably from the war, not from his, his being elderly. Super tall German dude, and he runs around, he can do housework, he's a carpenter and everything else at 93. It was crazy. But I said, the atrocities, this is kind of, sorry, did I get glitchy?
Yeah, you got a little glitchy. Try it again.
I deserve to be glitchy for what I'm about to say. So I said, looking at all the atrocities that the Reich committed, that and this is kind of on the wave of Polanski and Manson, and which is harder to defend. It's interesting, not to disregard the German atrocities. And he had lived through the DDR, so the East Germans, their whole emphasis was how horrible the fascists were, how terrible the West Germans were, and how much better they were as a people. So he lived through people talking about the terrors and tragedy of the Nazis. But I said, thinking about how terrible these tragedies were, it's hard to see this as so much worse than what the Russians and the Americans and what the English, really the English did, right? Like that these are just as terrible in so many ways, and they continue. They're numerous and continual human atrocities, right? Crimes against humanity, which are going on even today, right? And he got super excited, and you could tell his wife was just shocked because no one had ever said anything like this.
Right.
You
Like,
know,
what
you
you're
can
doing,
never say that.
I can't over qualify this, and part of it is just my life of communicating on these topics, that it's so easy to say, oh, it's easier to defend this than to defend this. I'm not talking about defending.
No,
And
yeah,
like
it's
it's
not about
so frequent that every time I want to like offer a perspective on something, even it's funny, like it's almost in the same camp if I do that with Trump, because I don't like spam. No, I don't like Trump. I've never liked Trump. I laugh. And even if you laugh, it's like he's not like, it's like, like I think that he's funny sometimes, like because I'm not freaked out. But like, it's like if I'm not freaked out in Santa Cruz, California, to the same degree as other people, it's like there's a question of, am I an other? Oh, so are you like on board with this? And it's like, I'm not even like, I just have a perspective on the thing and I can talk about that perspective. But unless if I'm just like going into the demonizing route, it's where I'm at is like questionable. I experienced that on Facebook years ago, like before I was ever even using Twitter, and I would like bring up something about Polanski, and they're like, you're a defender of whatever. And I'm sure Will has to experience this too if he wants to talk about David Koresh, like online or whatever.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter who it is. It's like as soon as you're just like, let me just talk about this objectively, it's almost like the more objective you are, the more questionable you are to a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like, what is your motivation? Like, and that's just bad faith. That's like if somebody, the better somebody knows you and where you're coming from, they're like, okay, I know where he's going. I have an idea of what his position really is. But it's like, like even if I tell somebody about Polanski, I'm like, you should read Samantha Geimer's book when they're going off on something, and they're like, oh, tell me to read the victim's book. Why?
Well, I mean, think of Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is so famous. Everyone has a compatibility with Steve Jobs. He made the iPod, so he's okay. But when you look at his life story and his complete rejection of his daughter and his girlfriend, and like the suffering that he put them through, his like lack of humanity, somehow the fact that this is justified. It's interesting how utilitarian they can be in certain circumstances when it's well branded, right? But the German guy, he said to me, because his eyes lit up, his wife was shocked, and then he just went, "Du hast das falsche Schwein geschlachtet," which means like, yes, you have slaughtered the wrong pig,
Or you have slaughtered the wrong pig. What a great saying. Is that an actual idiom there? You slaughter the wrong pig?
I mean, it is now.
Somehow every single parable that comes out of Germany has to do with sausage, man.
It's true. It's true. Somebody in the comments says Steve Jobs was was evil, just like Bill Gates.
Really? I don't know. I think Bill Gates.
I don't know about
they're
that.
different. My opinion is that Bill Gates is a sociopath, which is why he's so good at poker, right? Because he can actually like do evil things and not even show remorse.
Liquor in the front, poker in the back with that guy.
But Steve Jobs is a psychopath, and he would like to rile people up and get them to hurt each other in order to make better products, because he was a psychopath. Psychos are different than sociopaths.
I don't know. This is the thing, is that I gotta say, and I feel like I said this before, but I'll say it again, that I feel like we lost the wrong billionaire. I'm sorry. I hope nobody gets me for libel on that one. But it's just like with Steve Jobs, he what I saw from him was that he was just brutally honest in a way that I've never seen from Bill Gates, really. Maybe that one time when he said that from vaccines he gets a 20-to-1 return, and then later on said, I was only saying that in terms of the health benefits. So that wasn't financial. I'm like, okay, whatever, dude. But no, he doesn't do philanthropy that doesn't make him money. But philanthropy aside, at least like when shortly before Steve Jobs died, when he was asked about why he doesn't do manufacturing more in the US, he said he was just straight up do you think that Americans would ever put up with what's required of them, what we do in China to get their products to them so quickly? So he was like, yeah, we could manufacture here, but people wouldn't put up with having to live in a little closet, and they wouldn't like what happens to, you know, your physical body. Like they wouldn't put up with that in America. And it's like, everyone knows that. They should know that. It's so obvious, but you'll never hear something like that from Bill Gates. And Steve Jobs just all about it. Like, so Steve Jobs was an asshole, but I kind of like him. I knew people that worked directly under him, and they said he would scream at people across the business, saying, like in the offices, just being like, go home, take some acid, come back with something creative. God, I'm sick of you fucking people. You know, like,
totally.
Just like, whoa, dude,
yeah.
You know?
I love Steve Jobs, and you know who's better is Scott Forstall, the guy who they fired over the Apple Maps situation. This guy refused to allow his team to take Christmas breaks off, and he forced them to come back with a completely rewritten iMovie. He couldn't go on vacation. They demanded he go on vacation, and he spent the entire time rewriting the XML format, like so he could do better scuba videos. These people were driven on a level that Bill Gates was not. And the other thing is that Bill Gates, silver spoon in his mouth, raised by, you know, he never was a tech guy. He was a poker player, but he came from a family that were very affluent. Steve Jobs was abandoned, right? His father and his mother they got married after him, but they didn't keep him because their child was conceived outside of wedlock. Then they had another child together. So Steve Jobs knows this his entire life, adopted. He's like, why was I not good enough for this family? I think that's a pretty big issue in his life, right?
I was laughing at Mytho class saying in the thing, he goes, if you don't take the acid, you're fired, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, he did stuff like that. I mean, I've heard interviews, people who were interviewing with him I met a guy once at CNN who had gone to San Jose State and had applied to work for Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs had showed up at the meeting barefoot and then told the guy, you know, are you a virgin? And then he's like, I'm married to my wife. And he's just like, that's not what I asked. You're still a virgin. You haven't really experienced anything. And like, he would just tear people apart for no particular reason, unless you understood tribal rites of passage, right? These are tribal rites of passage, like Fight Club. Working for Apple was like Fight Club for some.
If you guys are done sucking off Steve Jobs here, let me just remind you, he also killed Flash, and I think that there's no coming back from that. Like that was true. He hurt the human race unequivocally with that.
We're back though. We're so back. We're back now.
He ate so many apples that he died from it.
I agree with you on both counts. However, ActionScript was destroyed by Adobe, I think, before. I mean, in terms of what was left of it, sure, ActionScript 3 was an incredible thing. That with Flash, the things we were doing was 20 years ahead of the time, but this was 20 years ago. So sure, we had Wiimotes with Darwin, you know, that allowed us to augment voxel, WebGL. It was incredible stuff.
And he couldn't have that because he wanted everything in a walled garden. He wanted everything to have to be regulated.
That's the opposite of what happened. Because that's what ActionScript was. It was a walled garden. You needed the Flash player to do it. And he wanted HTML to have those features in an open standard. And because of that, if it was an open standard, HTML, think of the difference. The drain that is caused by using an Adobe product, it was just sucking up whatever energy and power you had. And HTML is efficient now.
Maybe that was what
You're just pissed because you learned how to read and write ActionScript, and so I was pissed too. Okay?
But what actually happened though is that the world had adopted it, whether it was open or not. The world had adopted ActionScript and Flash, and then he decided it's no longer going to run on Apple devices. It did the day before, and then they put out an update that just actively blocked it from running, even though it could very well run. And because he did that, the rest of the industry was like, oh man, well, Apple's leading the mobile revolution, and if they're going to block this, then I guess that means we can drop support for it too, and it'll get killed off.
Wasn't Flash subject to more viruses and stuff? Like I remember that 20 years ago, it was like, oh, Flash, you got to be careful when you're downloading Flash.
You know what? The same thing would be leveraged between Windows and Mac and IBM, and that's because Apple had like 2% market share versus 98%.
No,
If you're a
it's because
hacker,
it's because
Go ahead.
Apple was built in BSD, and so it had military grade permissions the way Linux doesn't. Linux is envious of the walled garden that the BSD Unix system that Apple had. Apple's military grade. That's the difference. And Flash was this danger. I mean, if I was going to joke that Flash was the virus itself because it drained your system,
I
sent
feel like I remember
information
people
back to
saying that
Zoe.
at the time. They were
Yeah,
like,
it was
Flash
terrible.
basically is a virus.
And
I remember that.
I loved using Flash. I had a Flash website, for stemcellfilms.com. I used Flash for all of the video projection. Some of the earliest, craziest stuff we were doing with video projection, I was using Flash for, because you could, in real time, if you had a supercomputer with, several GPUs back in 2003 or 5, you could do incredible things that you can just barely do right now. Again, and I agree. This is why I agree with Thomas. It took 20 years for us to get back the universal features that Flash offered. Those were gone. It's crazy. We lost 20 years, but at the same time, it's now so much more efficient than Flash could ever be. And we have 100 times more powerful machines, so we can do things you could never believe live in HTML with JavaScript Node. So I mean, I feel like
okay, and also just to put a period at the end of the sentence on this one, at least, because we can just nerd out for like a couple hours.
We need Cyber Gulag is Paradise, by the way. We're going to do a nerd show.
It would have been one thing if the alternative to Flash existed when Steve Jobs personally killed it. This was not like a corporation, a nameless corporation. Steve Jobs literally woke up and decided to choose violence over Flash and killed it
every day about one thing or another.
When he did that, though, there was no alternative. It was like, I just don't want this thing to exist. Rest of the world, figure it out. By the way, here's Objective-C, this awesome, fun to use platform that can do nothing that Flash could do. And then he's like,
by the way, it seems to only be iPhones that will not run my videos on my website. And I know that that's not just my website. That is alternative streaming sources that are using those same kind of platforms. So in other words, if it's BitChute, if it's Odyssey, if it's YouTube, if it's Netflix, if it's Amazon, whatever, it seems to be okay to play all of those streaming services. But if you have a truly independent source, it doesn't seem to. This is a development in the last year that people are telling me, and every time it's an iPhone, they're like, I go to watch. First of all, I don't really want people watching my sync films on a phone, but I'll take what I can get because I put it out there. But I have people be like, it won't play for me, and I go, oh, do you have an iPhone? And they go, yeah. Or do you have an iPad? And they're like, yeah. And it's like, yeah, apparently Apple just doesn't want my stuff running on there. So it feels kind of like elitist in that way, or at least monopolizing
It's not elite. It's actually worse than that. It's child's locks. There's these literally like little cabinets you're not able to open. I think that's horrible, and I agree that Apple's gone completely off the deep end. But that's Apple today. After they fired Scott Forstall, and you've got Tim Cook running around, they took the gay out of the apple, but they can't take the apple out of the
gay. In defense of watching movies on your iPhone, didn't Darren Aronofsky actually mixed the movie Noah so that it would sound good on an iPhone and an iPad?
Jesus. Well, I mean, I can see the value there, but what Steve Jobs did originally was he went in. Steve Jobs would go in originally and he'd say, why are we using typewriters? No more typewriters. Everyone who has this is in the early 80s, like no more. We're going to make sure that everyone doesn't have a typewriter anymore. You have to be, and the thing is, to run a computer, just to do simple documents that you then have to send to a networked printer, that was going to cost crazy amounts of money. It was very practical to have a machine that you could type directly. Then why would you get rid of it? But he was like, we're a computer company, so no more typewriters. And he did the same thing with floppy disks. He's like, no more diskettes. You're going to use, zip drives? Zip drives are not that efficient, and they were so much more expensive than a floppy. And a floppy to hold 1.2 megabytes isn't a lot, but it was enough for no more of that. You have to use CDs or a special dongle plug-in thing. He would do this crazy thing where he's like, we need to force society to progress faster. And it's kind of nice because it's like Ford, right? You know the story with Ford where he comes into work one day. He's like, I'm doing an inspection. Like, well, this is a surprise. He's like, that's exactly why I didn't tell you. And then they go around and he says, how is this working? And they're like, well, this is great right here. Without this, we wouldn't be able to get nearly as many cars done. It's like, well, destroy it. I want it destroyed immediately. You're going to come up with 10 new ways to do this, that we don't need to rely on this mechanism. What about this guy? Oh, without him, we couldn't get nearly half the cars done in a month that we do. We'll fire him, train 10 people to do what he does. I want him gone within the hour, right? All of this sort of, do not allow something to be in your way of having a stability, but he would destroy anything that looked like stability because that would be the reason. It's another one is, Steve Jobs took out the serial ports and replaced them all with universal standard serial, USB, right?
Yeah,
USB was
infuriating.
not that great originally, but now USB is the world standard. I would argue this was because Steve Jobs did that.
Yeah.
And, you could say the same thing with the Next workstation. Why is HTML and HTTP a thing at all? Well, because he made sure that the Next workstation was at CERN so that this would become the universal toolkit for,
we're cherry picking a little bit like Nostradamus style here too, because he also gave birth to the FireWire port, and then the FireWire port just kind of slowly died and disappeared.
Which sucks because FireWire was so much better than HDMI.
Evolution, right? We're talking about decisions that make like everything that comes out.
Decisions that were like almost like from a tyrant, like tyrannical decisions. Like this is now going to be this way, and I don't care who has what to say about it because I'm the one making the decision.
Yeah, but usually they're
like a bulldog.
Yeah, well, usually for the most part, those end up like if you were to, go through like with a checklist and be like, what was beneficial and what wasn't. I think most of those executive decisions in the long run ended up being beneficial. Not to say that all of them were, obviously, but I don't know. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like some.
I'd argue that a executive decision is beneficial.
It all goes back to. It all goes back to when at the very beginning. So people who watched Synctank for a long time may remember a couple years ago showing a clip of the autobiographical story from Steve Jobs made into like a made-for-TV movie where they're going door to door trying to sell these computers. The business is going under at the very beginning. Steve Jobs is like, he's got like a sheet of sunshine acid, and he's just like, hey, screw it, guys, let's just drop this acid.
Is this
and
Pirates of Silicon Valley?
Yeah. And they're all like just these nerds. They're just not hip hippies. And they're like, screw you, Steve. And he's just like, okay, whatever. And he just like eats everybody's share to his dome. And then he's just like composing a symphony on the floor, and it's like all
he looks
night.
like Hitler having a fever field.
And then this is from his autobiography. Let's be clear. And then he comes out of that, and then the where they go from there, he just like he took charge. So there was like he got like he got kicked, he got pushed by something, and then he's just like he's running with it, and then that's just like the rest of his life is just like this like some fire that was lit at that time that just you couldn't put out, like it's just now he's just going, he's just running. And so, did he get a big head in the course of that? It sure looks like it. But the thing that comes down for me, of like when I'm comparing how this all started, just comparing him to Bill Gates, is it's just like, oh, at least he's freaking honest and is giving like that was almost like that was his edge. It was like Bill Gates is just like, you've seen Bill Gates be questioned, like those videos of him like being actually like interrogated, and the way that he's just like he's worse than Bill Clinton with Lewinsky. It's just like it goes way beyond what your definition of is. It's just like every question is evaded in this way. That's just so pathetic.
Not technically. That's not the legal definition of stealing. Yeah.
Oh, that's painful. Yeah. There's the best documentary that I've seen on Bill Gates, and I've seen a few, is the James Corbett series. And say what you will about James Corbett, that's a damn good documentary series that he did on Bill Gates. And I downloaded them all and put them together, and I have it somewhere on Twitter. If you go to my Twitter and you type in best Bill Gates documentary, it should come up. But it's just that shit's crazy because you can see like when he's like people who are just like your average schmo who are like who still like Bill Gates and are like, I mean, at this point, it's impossible
How
to
you?
defend
Yeah,
Bill Gates when
I've
you
been
look at
saying
the
like
Epstein stuff.
the use
Oh.
of Windows is the support of Jeffrey Epstein, right? Just
Yeah.
straight
I'm a
up.
big
If
fan
you-
of the mosquitoes personally. He's won me over with the mosquitoes.
True. Who needs Venezuela? I mean, who's done more war in Venezuela than Bill Gates? Let's be honest. I mean, he's killed more babies before they were born than Terminator. The whole
Oh
idea.
man. I'd say of everybody that's kind of like, that's when you look at the file, just looking at people and their names as it stands, Bill Gates looks like he's one of the most implicated people out there with all of this crap.
Totally.
Eating jerky
Yeah.
or whatever. I don't know if he's in the jerky message board or what, but
he must have
holy
been
cow.
the gnarliest of them all, though, right? Like that was the thing. You've seen the pictures of his when he lived in New Mexico. Of course, New Mexico. That's where Microsoft goes from Connecticut to New Mexico, from Yale Skull and Bones to Area 51, and then he starts.
Zorro Ranch.
There's just hundreds of mugshots of him because he would just get drunk at strip clubs and drive 100 miles an hour every night and didn't care because his daddy was going to get him out of it. So he didn't care at all. I mean, you could just see in his face. There were, I think in that same thing you brought up, Paul Allen and him. Speaking of millionaires, I wish we hadn't lost. I think Paul Allen was really an incredible character, but they stole bulldozers, right, and crashed them. They went into just public construction sites and would just get drunk and steal bulldozers and joust with each other.
Sounds like
Bill
a
Gates
blast.
it does sound like fun, but it's like seems like Bill Gates is a complete psychopath. Like, I mean, a sociopath, rather. He doesn't have the same fear. But I wanted to say Adobe, Future Wave, Macromedia, Flash. What do these things all have in common? Oh, and Atari, remember from last week, all from Utah, all Mormons that came from Utah to Silicon Valley and San Jose to start this stuff. So maybe it was a crusade, right? The Syrian orphan Steve Jobs against the Mormon desert rats.
Pixar too, and basically all modern 3D rendering algorithms, or a good portion of them, are all based on Mormons. Yeah.
Thank God for the Mormons. Have you guys? One thing we need to find someday is the robot.
Sunday? It is Sunday. It is Sunday right now.
It's Super Bowl
Sunday.
You mean next Sunday?
We have 2 hours for the Super Bowl. This is Super
Bowl
Sunday.
Someday. That's what you're saying. Oh, someday.
Yes.
Okay,
someday. I want to.
Someday.
The Work is a movie that was never released, right? First CGI film, The Worker, like the Work. Here,
when it say Westworld, it's talking about the original Westworld is the first CGI.
Well,
wait, what?
So because we all think of 1995's
the
Toy Story, right? But if you go to 75, where is it? The Works right here. This was supposed to come out in 81, 82, started in 79, and they had all these Mormons and Utah kids from Utah University that they brought to build this film, and it's never been released. It's an incredible work, and it gets its name because robot means work in Slavic languages.
Right.
But this movie,
robot.
Yes. Yeah.
We went over the origin of robot though.
Minyal robota, my job, right? Robot.
Right, but look up the etymology of robot. I think it's from a sci-fi.
Well, the word itself is a Slavic word.
Oh no, it's from, yeah, but
labor.
Robot's originally from a play about it's like a sci-fi type play. Well, yeah, but look at the origin, the original origin of the word robot.
All right, we'll do it. I mean, it's from a Slavic, it's Sanskrit even, I think. It's an ancient word, robot, mechanical person. English translation from the 1920 play Rossum's Universal Robot.
There it is. Right. And so this play is referenced in that show Dollhouse at the very end, or like right towards the very end of the show, where they where the character is, where their company is from this play. So like, yeah, it's weird. Like I thought that this would be even older than 1923, but yeah.
Well, technically, this is incorrect because Nikola Tesla had already created.
Nikola Tesla had already created the Victorian age into the machine age, so to speak.
Nikola
would be
Tesla,
the same time period as when you would have the time machine. So the time
1899.
yeah, they would be
Okay, we're
making-
talking about what Tesla? What?
Nikola Tesla had built a fleet of miniature model ships that were autonomous and would go around the water and could navigate around each other. They had some sort of optical sensors, so they didn't run into each other, etc.
Right.
And people said, "What? You built some toy boats?" He's like, "You don't understand. These are the robots. These are the first."
You don't understand what this is
robots.
going to mean for shopping carts in the future and cars.
And cars, right? Well, this is before cars even. But he's saying these are workers because these are robotas. These are laborers that will workers that
Talking about
work, and they
labor.
will never sleep. Yeah, this is all about labor. See, robot is
all about
actually
Oh,
Oh.
Jesus! We were hanging on every word, and you glitched. Shit.
Yeah.
dang.
Yeah.
Robot is a Slavic extension for Marxism because the word itself comes even from the Sanskrit word. I think also Arbeit, robot. So in German, Arbeit, right? That means job or work. Arbeit, and the
Right.
camps,
Automatons. I mean, I think
Yeah.
of Gollum. I think of golems.
Right, but
Arbeit
as
macht
you-
frei.
if you were to look in the original AI for the film AI, the proposals for AI that Kubrick commissioned these people to write this thing, like in his own handwriting, he emphasizes the distinction between a golem and what he's talking about here in AI. Like, so he says, like, basically this isn't the same thing. Why? Because the golem is made through an organic process. Thomas is hip to this, I'm sure, but like that the golem, they're using manure and like all this, like they go the thing, make the seal, but it's still we're still co-creators with the golem. Like, in other words, it's a literal organic act of creation. Whereas like in AI, part that Spielberg kept in is the idea that there's orga and there's mecha, and so Kubrick was emphasizing that the mecha isn't actually the same directive or order as a real golem. So it's like imitating a golem, which is like an imitation of an imitation, basically. So
plus a golem technically has like an on and off switch, which isn't the same that applies to, say, like a homunculus. A homunculus, you like, once it gets life or spirit or whatever, once it turns on, you have to kill it to turn it off. There's no other like on or off switch.
Right. You can't exactly, and that's why I think in Kubrick's own, like in his own rationale, like in his own mind, the way he made sense of things, like when you see that thing from Michael Herr from the Vanity Fair article where he's talking about Kubrick showing him his computer room at a time when hardly anybody had computer rooms, right? And he's just like he's showing the guy the equipment, and they're walking out of the room, and he's like, "Aren't you going to turn them off?" And he turns to him, and he's got this like knowing look in his eye, and he goes, "They like to stay on."
Yeah, they do.
And that is so loaded with what you're just describing. Like you don't have to turn these things off. They prefer to stay on, which is true for analog equipment in general.
We're just going right back to Metropolis. Like, we're circling Metropolis.
We are in Metropolis, I'm convinced, right now. Like everything's coming to a head. We're like approaching the end of Metropolis. That's what's happening.
They have better Moloch rituals, though. We don't really have the cool ones. We just have like war.
What do you mean? What do you mean? We don't have the
Hey,
Moloch
yo,
ritual.
is Moloch the big owl? Moloch is the big owl, right?
No, Moloch is the bull.
Yeah, and
The giant bull.
but oh god, thank you for that. What's it? Washington D.C. Congress owl Moloch. Do I have to do this? If you turn the owl upside down, you all know what I'm talking about. This is the owl, right, around the Congress building. But if you turn this upside down, how do I even begin to do this? I have to like take the picture.
And the owl's on top of a pyramid, and then adjacent to that is an upside down star.
Right, and isn't the tip of the upside down star actually Albert Pike's grave? I think Scott Onstadt points that out in Secrets in Plain Sight.
Is it? I didn't. I mean, I wouldn't.
And that was
doubt
actually.
it. I mean,
that was my first question when I met Scott Onstadt. Is I was like, dude, I have to know the syntax of how you got to Albert Pike's grave, because I was like, did you start with that? and then come to like everything directs towards that, or were you just like,
There you
where
go.
does this lead? And then it's just like, of all places, it was Pike's grave, and he said the syntax was he was just looking at the geometry, and then he was like, what is the significance of this point here? Zoomed
Right.
in, then saw it was Albert Pike's grave.
You see the owl here. Here's the head.
yeah.
Here's the heart. But this upside down becomes the bipedal Moloch's phallus, which is the same image but upside down. Now he has these legs for his ears and his horns that emerge. Right. So there is this inversion thing for Moloch and the
reason
Isis protectorate.
Why Will is saying that, I imagine, is because if you watch either the documentary from Alex Jones or John Ronson, you can see that Alex Jones repeatedly keeps saying Moloch, and he keeps changing the pronunciation. Sometimes he'll be like Moloch, I don't know, like he doesn't know, but he's foaming at the mouth over the thing, and he's kind of like feeling around totally in the dark, literally, and he's just like, and this is like 2000. He's just trying to understand what the freak these guys are into. And he's just like, is it Moloch?
I've come full circle on this because it used to be a pet peeve for people to call an owl Moloch, but I've come full circle just because Moloch, even itself, is really, I think it was a combination of Malik, which meant king, and then Molk, which was a sacrificial ritual, MLK. And if you did a Molk ritual, then that ritual would start to be ascribed to certain gods, and then those gods would start to be considered like Molochian gods or call them Moloch themselves. But Moloch, the way that we use it, just means sacrifice.
Is
so
that
in
right?
that case, it refers to like Baal, usually Baal Hammon, or like
I was about to say,
Baal.
yeah. Then we like don't sacrifice your children to Baal is in the Old Testament,
right? And technically, like that process of sacrificing your child to Baal would have been called Molk or Moloch. So it kind of gets conflated. But then ultimately, when people are talking about Bohemian Grove, they're talking about the cremation of care, and cremation of care is a mock human sacrifice. So technically, you've got that Molk back in there. So I mean, I'll allow it. I'll allow Moloch and the owl to be related because of Bohemian Grove, but the owl itself was not part of Moloch.
No, the owl is the protector of the secrets of Isis, right? So the secrets that the warlocks are not supposed to reveal.
Is that not Mithra?
Are
we looking at Mithra?
No, this is Astarte or Ishtar. Starbucks.
Okay. And she was associated with the owl in part because she was known as like the screeching god, like in the middle of the night, if you heard something screeching, that it like she was making that noise, and that the owls are also the other animal that would make this noise. It just sounded like screaming.
That's fun.
Yeah, which relates to the Qliphoth, I think. What is it? What is
it?
And
it gets into too, like all of the original demons, if you like oversimplify it, they were all wind gods, and that was because like as the wind would blow, it would make that same screeching noise. So like the association between her and the rest of demons kind of spawns from that.
It's a stridulum. Is that what that is? Or the alternative name for the visitor means to screech or scream, I believe. Stridulum. It's Italian, maybe, I forget. But anyway, you know what? I gotta say, if we're on this topic, it's kind of like, I don't know if you call it. I get annoyed when I see tweets and stuff with like that little clip from the Chicago World's Fair, where you have people sometimes think it's just from a movie or something, but it was a production that happened. But they'll have the children being sacrificed to Baal or whatever. And then they'll be like, look at this effed up thing that they did at the World's Fair. And it's like, I don't know. I can't remember how long it was. Was it 7-8 hours or something? It was like a full day production of the entire Old Testament, like for the most part, like just like this huge feat at the World Fair for this thing. And they'll take this little clip and they'll be like, look at these sickos. And it's like, this is one
sacrifice
moment.
One kid in public, and
all of a sudden you're Larry the Goat Fucker. I'm sorry, it's so weird. yeah. But but the context is that this is in the midst of the entire Old Testament, and we're looking at a clip from the middle of it, and they're treating it that this is what it was, and it's like, dude, you're literally like going through the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That annoys me, but whatever. Like they're treating it that this is the centerpiece of the whole event.
It's like when you see someone
child sacrifice.
when you see like a quote from the Talmud on Twitter, and it's like you see like the huge, so like 80 books, and then someone's like, "Aha! Look at this one."
You kill Sharon
Right.
Tate one
Thank you.
time. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, and that one really annoys me. You guys know, if you follow me on Twitter, you probably picked up on the 100 tweets that I've made about the Talmud, where I'm just like looking at what somebody's sharing. I'm like, there's like, these are a debate. It's ancient Twitter is literally what you're looking at for all intents and purposes. You're looking at an argument, a debate where people are taking these extreme positions, and then like you can have 100 pages of an argument before a rebuttal is presented, and that rebuttal will often negate like half, if not anywhere from half to all of what was previously presented. But some asshole had to present the extreme argument, and that's just what it is. Like, it literally is like, this is what people have been doing forever. You know what I mean? Like, they're just getting into these crazy debates where some guy has like an extreme position, and then somebody else has to like debate that position no matter how extreme it is. So, you know, whatever. But
also, I think things were a little hot and heavy outside of, you know, Israel when they were in the Exodus in Babylon. There's a lot of different ideas going through, and it's a place where human sacrifice was culturally normative, was in Babylon.
Well, there's the Babylonian Talmud, and then there's beyond. It's a collection of multiple books, including the Mishnah. But yeah, it's
and also just to point out that like a lot of those sacrificial rituals were mandated by the state. You didn't have the option to not participate. Like that, it was the way that they also would collect tax. Like it wasn't always your kid, right? Sometimes you'd have to bring like a cow, and they'd quarter the cow, and then like half of that cow would go to the clergy, and then the other half the clergy would dispense to the rest of the people.
You're talking about Babylon still. Yeah, you're talking about Babylon.
I'm talking about
ancient Sumeria,
man. All of it.
No, well, you know, if you get into the actual writings around temple sacrifice, you know, the
Leviticus 23. Bring up Leviticus 23 real quick.
Okay, right. We got Will on the line. We're looking at Bible
we're
verses.
We're going to start opening the 7 seals here. Are we on the first one yet?
Countdown to the seals. Let's go.
Club baby seals. All right. And the Lord spake unto Moses. Oh, you want to read it? Sorry, go ahead.
No. I think, yeah, this is the one about like the holidays. This is because all of the Jewish holidays are basically replacing child sacrifice with.
Right. This is the big reason why it's clear that God did not give his only begotten son to be killed, because, you know, Abraham didn't kill his son. God stopped this from happening.
Right.
So there's no excuse for this false Christian paradigm that God killed his son, when really it was like humans killing, right? This is kind of the Leviticus 23. Everything is all about better ways of celebration. And this is also something that's been abridged and I would say neutered or mutilated by Deuteronomists during the Babylonian period. But sorry, go ahead. Do you want to read it?
No. That's
no. I want you to read it, but I just was making sure that it was the right one. I just wanted to make sure.
I'll do it in my best New English Mid-Atlantic. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feasts of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations. Even these are my feasts. 6 days shall work, but the seventh day ye shall.
See, I knew that this would happen.
Well, he's in Europe. I think this is actually like a felony in Europe to read the Bible out loud.
No, but don't the Muslims also do this?
Down in Europe.
Damn,
you're not reading the Bible. You're reading a translation of the Bible.
You're reading
on ChatGPT.
GPT's Bible.
ChatGPT, Coca-Cola, McDonald's. Did it help? Did that help? I think that worked. I think you just have to say McDonald's.
It did work.
And then the Lord said, at McDonald's, ye Ronald, thou shalt invest in insurance, life insurance for thyself. Okay. Where were we?
Bring it in the golden arch.
Okay. These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their season. In the 14th day of the first month, at even is the Lord's Passover. And on the 15th day of the same month, it is the feast of the unleavened bread unto the Lord. 7 days ye must eat unleavened bread. In the first day ye shall have a holy convocation. Ye shall do not servile work therein, but ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord 7 days. In the seventh day is a holy convocation. Ye shall do not servile work therein. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye be come into the land which I have given you unto you, shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest.
First fruits, yeah.
And he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering. 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall ye number 50 days, and ye shall offer a new meat offering unto the Lord.
This relates
And
to Sukkot, I believe.
The wave offering is the important thing. Like look up wave offering. But yeah.
Okay.
Keep going.
All right, I'll just type
No.
that
No. I think that's
Wait.
like the only place that it appears is basically here. What I was saying anybody who's listening to this, look up wave offering.
All right. Well, I got it. I'll add it to the thing to look after. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, in the first day of the month, shall ye have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, and holy convocation. Also on the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be an holy convocation unto you. And ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, The 15th day of the 7th month shall be the feast of tabernacles, for 7 days unto the Lord. Also in the 15th day of the 7th month, when ye have gathered in the fruits of the land, ye shall keep a feast unto the Lord 7 days. On the first day shall be a Sabbath, and on the 8th day shall be a Sabbath. And your generations may know that I have made the children of Israel to dwell in booths, which I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. And Moses declared unto the children of Israel the feast of the Lord.
So the part where it's speaking to the tabernacle, I believe, has to do with the sukkah. So you build a sukkah for this period of time, which is a small replication of the tabernacle, which itself was the template for the temple itself. So going back to Solomon's temple, this is all the same components for the most part that relate. So you're imitating the same thing that they did when they were wandering in the desert for all that time until they established. Because the whole idea with the temple is that you're establishing like a permanent. Nothing's permanent. That's why the temple gets destroyed eventually every time. But you're basically you're taking this structure and you're building it in such a way that you're like, here we are here, instead of this non-localized thing that we were doing in the desert. The rationale for wandering 40 years in the desert isn't just that we're lost, like we literally just can't find our physical way, but that we have to endure this period of non-localization because this speaks to consciousness. If you have like
pattern recognition, like prophecy repeats itself. It's often
Burning Man every year.
It's like it's a stutter, right? Like Babylon has fallen. So there's like a repetition or a frequency of events, and once you turn into that frequency, you like repeat the frequency. And so like what my whole argument to the individuals who don't believe what was happening in Waco is, well, they often ask, and I'm like, well, that's because they were like living by the pattern. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Have you ever?
The proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding.
But you just brought up.
It happened.
But
as Bill Cosby used to say.
Right, it's in the pudding, but this is the
it's in the pudding.
It's the pudding.
And this is why a wave offering is from this, right? Because it's not a real offering to God. right? A wave offering is where you wave it in front of God and then you keep it and give it back to the priest to eat. That's all it means. It means that we're not doing a Holocaust. We're not burning. Holocaust means full burnt offering. We don't burn the whole lamb. So instead, you're going to show God, look what we've created, which really is like, you should be saying, thank you, God, because there's no way that without your sunlight, sun worship, right? If you got the sun, you got rid of that, and you took the God's dirt, the stardust that he's fashioned together, that they've created this world for you, and the water and the seed, the teleology of this, there shouldn't be any offering. It should just be a gratitude moment where you say, thank you, we acknowledge that you made this, not us. And then we were the organizers, not the creators. Just like you are the organizer, not the creator. But they've inverted all of this. And then the priests, the Cohens, the Deuteronomists, they get to consume as a tax all of the rights of the individual tribes of Judah.
Yeah,
keep
and
in mind,
it's interesting you said that. Hold on just a second, because Leviticus 23 is often used for the socialist backgrounds of Christianity, which is kind of opposite in the realm of thinking in today's politics. Socialist means bad from a right-wing understanding. But
ironically, because Republicans were socialists to begin with, they invented Social Security. They were Trotskyite neoconservatives, where Republicans were Trotskyites. Sorry. Go ahead.
But it's just interesting because that's one of the arguments for socialism, is being like, almost giving a tithe that goes directly to, whether it be burned lamb or a certain amount of what you made or whatever went to the priest which was basically considered to be jobless. So
the Melchizedeks were not jobless because they were involved with the atonement ritual. They didn't
They were jobless. See,
they were
jobless, or you're jobless,
or they're jobless. Maybe
there's a golden bow thread here too, though, because Fraser in the first 3 books, he makes a strong case that like the origin of all human evolution and where we've got with technology and belief, it started that everyone was a hunter, and everyone as a hunter built their own little superstitions up, and then basically every time that you went out to go and hunt or do anything, you'd have to rely on this whole big religious superstitious framework to make sure that the hunt was successful and you didn't get killed and nothing bad happened. And then over time, the worry stopped being individual, and everyone could offset their magical superstitious worries to the one guy that stayed back. And now that guy, he doesn't have to go out and hunt anymore, because now the burden of making sure it rains, making sure that no one gets hurt, making sure they actually find what they're looking for, it's on that guy to do all the ceremonies and everything. But after that goes on long enough, people start being like, what the hell's that guy even do? He doesn't even, he just sits in the hut and he doesn't do anything anymore. So it has to become mandated.
This is like Nick Clay. We're dancing around Nick Cage. But go ahead.
Well,
why? Because he was in the Wicker Man remake? What?
No, because that's what we're like, the Weatherman too. He's not just the Wicker Man, he's also the Weatherman.
That's true. The Weatherman, I think, is secretly about Cohenism. Right? The Weatherman is about a priest who can only do so much to reveal God to the world. The Weatherman can't predict the weather. He can only tell you about how the weather works, right?
But there's something that has to do with the Wicker Man. Because if you're having a sacrifice for the Wicker Man and it rains, that ruins the sacrifice. Those two are related somehow. I'm not sure. There's there's a mess right there.
Have you read Tolstoy's translation of the Gospels? Right, Tolstoy, 1883 or something. He does this. He gets excommunicated for it. Right. Lev Tolstoy wrote a abridgment of the 4 Gospels, removing the miracles, kind of a socialist, a proto-socialist Jesus Christ narrative.
Isn't that kind of what the Essene Gospel of Peace kind of attempted to do too?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting because when we look at some of the other, when we know more now, people will tell you that the Dead Sea Scrolls are an evidence that the modern NIV translation are correct. It's kind of ironic because they're bastardizing what that means. Because the quotes from Jesus are not in any of the four gospels. They're taken from a Qumran doctrine, which is nothing but quotes. It's a whole book called The Quotes of Jesus, the quotes of Christ, quotations of Christ. And those are imposed into the four other gospels, so that they're always saying, wow, it's incredible how they all match up. Well, this is because they're literally taking one thing and putting it into all four books. That's where those quotes come from.
Well, what Joseph, I don't agree with Joseph Atwell's ultimate extrapolations. People that know me know that. But I do think that there's something major to be said for the mathematical component of the Gospels, how repeatedly they will fill in each other's blanks. So something will happen at one part of the day, and there'll be these like apparent jokes that you'll only see the joke if you put them all together and consider the implications. So there's four Marys in the story. Mary comes to the tomb four times. Did the same Mary come to the tomb four times? If you're putting in the different times of day in which she shows up at the tomb, or is it one Mary, then another Mary, then another Mary? That's one example. But like there's things like that where you can kind of you can prove mathematically that these people were connected to each other. These aren't people that spread out and are writing these things and we just all put them together like wherever. Like that's not even possible mathematically. Like it doesn't make any sense. But I want to say, Thomas, you're bringing up the Golden Bough. And this is what was so controversial with the church at the time when Fraser was writing this stuff, was like they freaked out because he's saying something specific about what Christianity is that relates to these anthropological findings that he had. And it also relates to this idea of like, what even is Christianity in the context of the fall? Because the thing is like you have this idea that's so central to Jewish thought prior to the New Testament, that we have this fall that is ongoing. It's not that it just happened in the garden, it's this perpetual thing. So like in Jewish mysticism, they relate it to like a wine funnel that's tightening and tightening and tightening. And as we go through time, every time we have these destructive events, like with every temple, it's like we're moving further along into this fall. But when we get to the bottom, we go back to the top of the slide, like that's the way that it's related to. But the difficulty for people who follow that reasoning is that they have certain points of proof that we've actually reached the end of this fall and the coming of the Mashiach. So for traditionalists, who are coming from this place, they're like, until we see these particular things, the forgiveness of all debt, the release of all slaves and servitude and all this stuff, they're like, it hasn't happened yet. So this is so basic, but that's the main disjoint, is like we were supposed to arrive at this new world where we're developed in a different way, and there's all of these indicators of that. But some people are like, basically like, no, actually, if you just go, like, there's almost like a parallel universe that they can exist within. Like that's the only way Jewish people can really make sense of Christianity. They're like, well, is it a parallel universe where all these things have come to pass? And that's kind of what Christianity says when it's speaking to, your reward is not here, but it's in the world that is to come. Like, is the world that is to come like here but hidden? And then that gets into the occult side of that. Like, you're like, oh, well, is there an alternate universe where all these things have come to pass? Some people exist within that, and some people still exist within this hell realm of the perpetual fall. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's like two lines of reasoning. You can see the scapegoat ritual that is from anthropology that predates Christianity, described by Fraser and elsewhere, different expressions of it all around the planet. This is not about one culture. We all kind of entertain this in the ancient world. We all kind of had some form or another of this same issue, and it has to do with the defect. Like the defect isn't in nature itself, clearly, but the defect is in our replication of what's in nature, and then that's what we have to reconcile. So I think
the thing that I'm getting the most out of Fraser right now, and like my very first read through of the unabridged, is that it's so easy to dismiss how important like the superstition and like even if you think I'm so far advanced beyond some 2,000-year-old set of superstitions that people have turned into rituals, and like I'm beyond that. I live in the 21st century. I use ChatGPT. Like I have a car. I don't have to worry about Old Testament, New Testament. It's so outdated and irrelevant. But I agree that it is outdated, but it's not irrelevant because the structure itself of having a religion, regardless of what it is, like having a religion, it ultimately represents that we don't all have to be hunters and we don't have to be individuals, that like having that religion is a way that you can, it's like communism, I guess, like you can feed into this thing and the thing will feed back into you, and then you can just like replicate that on a million different levels.
Right. And that's this is your life. Like you can't actually, you can pretend like you're so far advanced and away from all this stuff, but you're dealing with it every day. And if you go into the particulars, you can see the ways in which it expresses itself psychologically for people. Notice how drawn people are to the scapegoat thing. They do the same thing that they did in the ancient world, and they'll be like, and I'm saying it's Metropolis. It's like, who told you to destroy your homes? Oh, the witch did. Burn her. Like that thing that we do is freaking everywhere all the time. You know,
my get right now is that you might look back at like an ancient culture and just be like, so you're telling me this guy wearing like a loincloth, dancing and screaming at the sky and like shaking a staff, he thought it was going to rain. That's so silly. That's so quaint. But really, it's you need to have a mechanism that makes you believe that you are in control of the weather somehow. As long as you believe.
I mean, it's Noah. That's what Noah is, right? Like Noah, one of the original heroes, forecast the weather, so to speak. And I mean, all of it has to do with water, because like it really doesn't even appear that there's rain until Noah. Does that make sense? Almost.
Yeah,
like
it's also Al Gore was playing the role of the prophetic weatherman. That's what an inconvenient truth was. He was like, a storm is coming, y'all. I've got
Is that what like Gates and everything are?
But all it was
Gates
doing was
more of a weatherman.
It's a religion. It's a religious idea that's presenting itself as like, that's what science is. It's like the new religion for a lot of people, because it's a belief system where we're like, we have this, we know this. And it's like, dude, that's what we've always done. It's just, they're saying we have all of this evidence tells us this is the outcome. But then repeatedly, it's not like the predictions that are made, which are really just like prophecies, right? They're not real prophecies, but people treat them as such. And then it's like, oh, is this going to, and it will come to pass that at this time, like that's what, like it feels so preachy.
Because okay, so right here I got Enoch, right?
Sure.
Okay.
As one does.
As one would.
Okay. The words of the blessing of Enoch wherewith the blessed, the erect or the elect and righteous, who will be living in the day of tribulation. So it says right off to the bat, it's like, this really isn't for the people in the time period that I wrote it, which is the religious interpretation of most ancient texts, is like they were written for the time period of which they were like that culture. But it says right after, this is about Judgment Day. It mentions a whole bunch of key words, but in the very back of the chapter 2, it says, behold the summer and winter, how the whole earth is filled with water, and clouds and dew rain lie upon it.
Right. That's tall, by the way. Do you know the significance of that?
Yeah. You should,
resurrection of the dead.
You should pinpoint the word dew. Right. Because not only does it have to do with Judgment Day, as we talk about the day of tribulation, blah, 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 in the very first books of Enoch, like the very first words, it also mentions like the water table, and it drops the word dew. So you know it has to do with like the resurrection, but it also has to do with like water. You get what I mean? Because the water table is not even like observed scientifically for like another 1,300 years. But they're dropping it in here right after they're telling you this is not for you.
What about nilometers?
You're not going to understand when you read this about the water table. This is for people who will understand what the water table is.
It's actually in the math of it. So the word tall in Hebrew has the gematria of 39. 30, it's significant because if you spell out tetragrammaton using alepphs, so in other words, if you were to say yud and you spell it like yud dalet, right? Hey would be hey aleph. If you're sounding out the letters, right? If you spell out the first 3 letters as a sound phonetically with alephs, you get 39, which is tetragrammaton minus the final hey, which is Shekinah. So they say in this interim, as we move through the fall, this is what we're experiencing. If you add the final hey with an aleph, it gives you the gematria of the Adam, the complete Adam. So the idea is that tetragrammaton is incomplete. It's kind of like the missing headstone idea of the missing the top point. What is that? Of a pyramid. It's like the uncompleted pyramid, right? So this is like, for this time, this is what we're experiencing. So it says the dew awakens the dead is this the book of Isaiah, where the prophecy occurs about the Mashiach? So it's saying that that there is something that's incomplete now, and when it gets complete, God will so God created man in his own image, but we don't see ourselves as we really are, is the communication in Genesis. So the point at which we actually experience ourselves as we are is this completion. And it is the equivalent of awakening the dead, because what the revelation is first of all, we're all one. I am that I am, right? But it's also that all these sacrifices and everything that's happened all builds to this point of this ultimate revelation, and then that is the world that is to come, is a different consciousness that no longer basically perceives death. So there is no death. Everything is part of one movement.
Ezekiel 37. But I think this has to do with what we were talking about earlier with workers, right? Like, because why, if we're like the perfect species, why do we have like a clock? Why do we have a death clock? And I think it has to do with
you're talking about the doomsday clock.
No.
Just mortality is urgency.
Gotcha.
You have urgency.
Because there's other species who live longer, like turtles and stuff like that, or we genetically change things to have
lobsters.
So if we're made to be perfect, why do we have a timeline? And that's basically
we're clearly biblically we're made to be less perfect. We used to live for thousands of years, then 120 is a cap. Right. Yeah.
Sin is the cause of death, right? Sin as in insanity or whatnot. Because once you try to control the workers or whatnot, if you gain control and live forever, like a vampire would never lose control. Do you get what I mean? Like if you were this, and it's weird, we were talking about philanthropy and everything, but philanthropy is just PR. It's like the beginning of PR when there was like factories and stuff burning down, and then they realized they didn't have safety controls on the factory.
Yeah, I'm on board 100%. Like all philanthropy is really just corporate PR. There was no other reason for it to exist.
Right. That relates to Metropolis. I mean, a lot of things here relate to what's crazy is we were pointing out earlier that the robot from that play from the early 20s, Metropolis was released in 1927. So you have it's only a few years after the introduction of this word in the first place. It shows up in the subtitles. My robot is out of control.
You know what they used to call robots before robots? You know what they used to be called? Mechanical Turks.
Well,
really? Mechanical Turk.
Not necessarily, because a Mechanical Turk was fake. Well, traditionally, if you talked about Mechanical Turk right now, it was an actual guy pretending to be a robot.
You mean like Shank?
But so originally, the Mechanical Turk was an illusion trick, but it was the idea that there was a machine that would play chess, the chess machine, a chess master inside of a box. And of course, originally there really was a human involved with it, but this is the same thing with Amazon using Indians to run their Whole Foods data collection systems. Of course, 100%. Humans are involved, Mechanical Turks, right? But now we can say, I think the same thing about Metropolis, because the robot in Metropolis is not simply a robot. It requires this woman to have her soul essentially pulled through this alchemical process to be bonded. It's not really just a robot. It's a cyborg, right? Because it has her being.
I think that's open for debate, because she is a replicant. But the reason why I say it's open for debate is because if you watch the scene and the way that he does it, it does seem to communicate that. But at the same time, I don't know if that's explicit in the book. Did you read the book?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so she's a replication. She's kind of everything that Maria isn't, but she gives the appearance that she is the real Maria. So this is approaching it, but This is just him.
Colorized. What
accosting her.
abomination is this? A colorized version?
They're caught in a bad romance.
Who's colorizing Metropolis?
Good bastardization.
Morodo.
I've done horrible
This looks
things
like
in my life.
Morodo.
Oh my
Morodo?
god, what
How
is
do you say it?
happening?
What do you mean? What is happening? This is the version, man. This is the '80s version,
This
I
is
think. Oh
the
no,
version.
this isn't actually the '80s
This
version.
is more AI. This is like if Ted Turner got his way with Metropolis, what it would look like, I think. But I mean, I'm okay with it. I can handle it. I want to see it for a second. So you're using this incredible alchemical technique, and he's using the girl in order to bond her soul or to use her like an alchemical. It's like Full Metal Alchemist, right? You trade your arm and your brother's entire body.
She doesn't lose her soul or a part of her soul, though, really, because she's literally like still there, being Maria, and then So I don't know. It's debatable. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe you don't have to lose your soul in order to duplicate some part of your being for the machine, right? I mean, you can make a subliminal copy a part of yourself, but it makes this more of a homunculus than just a automaton, right? And it is something that is.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I'm like, I could debate this in myself, so I'm not even going to take.
What's the debate? There doesn't even seem like there's a debate there.
The debate is central to Kabbalah, because this is a Kabbalah film, right? But that you have these two directives. You have the sustaining order of the empire, and then you have the emanated flow of the Shefa. Does this process have anything to do with the Shefa, really? Or is this all having to do with empire? So I would argue, if you're talking straight Zohar, the whole point of the fake Maria is that this Maria is fake. That's why when they set her on fire, there's the big reveal when everyone sees that she's just made of metal, that she's not a real entity. This is a whole deal. It's like, I would go so far to say, how people react to the Ujat as it shows up from all of these music videos and all these magazines from all these celebrities covering one eye, and they seem to be referencing the Ujat. I would go so far to say that this film is so central to the tapestry of Hollywood esotericism, whatever, like the esoteric world of Hollywood, that it all is this one scene right here. So he meets the fake Maria for the first time, right? And then this guy he's the monster, right?
Frieders.
He's like, yeah, thank you.
Well, it's Oedipus thing. There's an Oedipus thing because
do they show it? Is this the scene? Because this is the scene. In a couple seconds, he's gonna say, I want, unless if this cuts out before it, but he says, I want you to control the workers. And here it is. Are they gonna show it? And she winks, and this wink is everything. Because he's like, he wants her to control the workers, and she's agreeing to it, and she closes one eye here. See this right here?
Indeed.
See that? I think this is everything. I think this right here, this scene, is the reason why all these celebrities are always doing that wink thing. Because yes, this is referencing the Ujat. This is referencing the two sides of the brain and how they meet the eyes. But at the same time, this is her saying, yes, I will control the workers. What does she do? She causes a riot. She does the exact opposite. So every time that freaking, not just Lady Gaga, but all these people are doing that nod and that wink right there, this is freaking everything. I'm just saying, I'm just putting that out there. Like, yeah,
but
I'll
it's the
control
genie.
workers.
It's the genie wish that they're creating, and the idea also that Frieders and Friederson are not truly like this is Friederson, right? This is son of Frieders, and Frieders is the man that you're talking about. However, there seems to be quite a relationship between Rotwang, the inventor, and Frieders.
Yes.
They have similar hair. You can see there's certain character traits.
It was the style at the time.
I think not. I think the issue is more clearly because you find out that Rotwang and the inventor and the billionaire, they have shared love for the same woman, who is the reason why he built this robot hell in the first place.
You have a good point.
I think what it is that Rotwang is actually the father of Friederson, not Frieders. And that's why there's this interesting relationship.
Between them. I don't know if I would say that necessarily. What is is that an intuition, or is there a basis?
I mean, that was my first thought watching it as a kid, was that there's something weird going on between the father and the inventor. Why does the billionaire allow the inventor to keep going on when he was clearly this former love interest of his dead wife, and his precious relationship with his son, which he doesn't feel. He doesn't feel similar to his son. His son feels foreign to him. I think it's because of Rotwang.
You and I are seeing the same thing, but we've extrapolated different conclusions. My understanding has been that Rotwag, or whatever, however you say his name, that he has a connection to the fake Maria that's actually emotional. Like he's sentimental because it's in the image of Hel, his dead ex. Not in the image of, it's actually in the image of Maria, but he's connecting it to this thing. So he's distorted and he's confused because he wants to make a replicant, but he knows deep down that it's a replicant and he can't control it. So there's something weird, like he's like, I've lost control of my robot,
right.
you know, but it's all like this, I don't know, there's like a drama triangle thing happening, because the same way that Frater's son, is that the son of the elite guy that's down in the lower world. So when he meets the high priestess, they connect, and it's at that point that Rotwag wants to steal this woman. Yeah, I'm not German, but he wants to have this for himself, this thing that he witnesses the other guy having with her. But he wants to replicate it, and he can't, and he's miserable. Like he can't actually.
I mean, Red Wang seems like something you want to remember, right? He's a Red Wang, like a little dog,
Yeah, no, I'm yeah, I should remember all these names, but I don't have it.
Just because it feels like there's definitely like if not Kabbalistic, then certainly a Freudian connotation with some of the names of these characters.
You think that the Wang part of Rotwang is like literally like, oh, is this Weinstein with the rotten?
Where do you think the dude comes from? Because the dude comes from the Wang.
Right.
But there is more in the book. Like it's not that long, so I'd recommend it. But there's definitely more in the book about like the love triangle.
It's a day's read, really.
Between
Hey, can I put in a request? Can I ask David to read Ezekiel chapter 20 or 37?
All right, I'll pull it up on the screen, and you can make him do it.
David, yeah, come on, David.
Come on.
Yeah, I wanted to
emotion.
Princess Diana playing cricket with Hare Krishna's behind her was a good move. I just want to say. Okay.
All right, there it is.
All right, I don't
it
know.
Is Sunday, so I guess it's appropriate.
It's not large enough. You're gonna have to zoom in for me on my screen. It's just not,
Can you
it's
zoom
not
in
happening.
my focals?
Yeah.
Control
I can't
plus.
really read.
Will
Control plus.
Send your donations in now.
Yeah, I can't.
You have to select your
Control plus.
You have to do it.
Is this me?
Can you do
is
it?
this me? Oh,
yeah,
right.
this is your screen, bro.
No, we're looking at your computer. Look at all that porn in the tabs, dude.
Oh my god.
All right, there we go.
Okay. The hand of the Lord was upon me and carried me out in the spirit of the Lord and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones, and caused me to pass by them round about. And behold, there were many in the open valley, and lo, should I do it like Burroughs? And they were very dry. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Lord God, thou knowest. Again he said unto me, Prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord God unto these bones, Behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live. That's referencing the Adam, right? You get the breath, the Aleph. And I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you. Ye shall live, and ye shall know that I am the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon. Okay, so I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. Then said he unto me, Prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, Son of man, and say to the wind, Thus saith the Lord God, Come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived and stood upon their feet, an exceeding great army.
All right.
Then he said unto me, okay, you get the idea?
Yeah. But that's like where the dead come to life, right? Of course, we can all
there's
agree
multiple.
on that.
There's this, and there's also. So we're looking at Ezekiel right now. That's what's happening.
Yeah, this is Ezekiel 37. Yes.
Okay, so the same reference comes up in the book of Isaiah in terms of the prophecy of the dead being awakened.
Right.
You know.
So
But,
all that
yeah.
all that David Koresh was doing was putting all of the topics into categories based on the seals, which is just basically a kid's riddle. You just match what the topic is to the subject matter in the actual books
Mhm.
because they're out of order. But you can understand how it has to do with like the words because of the word like prophecy, right? So the word prophecy is like over and over pounded into your head. So it really doesn't matter what it's about, but you know that it fits into the category of like the dead rising.
Right. I would say that the word prophecy and the word prediction are like the most like when people discuss biblical meanings, they're so conflated in people's minds that I think it's really misleading what's being spoken to. So I kind of stand on that
See, it's
soapbox a lot.
over and over again is a thing. Like, because I think that whoever wrote the books or whoever influenced the writing of the books, basically that's why words are repeated over and over, is because of like the understanding of it's compensation for decomposition, like or like it decomposing. Like if you have a sacred text, right, and you put it in a fucking vase and it gets shit on by a whole bunch of birds, but when you pull it out, it still has like some of the words missing. However, if you put or it could be translated wrong, like you mentioned. However, if you mention the word over and over and over and over and over again, it like hashtags it, if you would.
I had a time where I got my rabbi to laugh when we were translating something, and I was likening what we were translating to in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where it's like, count ye not unto 4, 3 shall be the number of thy counting, and count ye not unto 2, for the number unto which ye shall count shall be 3. 5 is straight out. Like it'll just go into this thing. I'm like, it's just telling us the same thing over and over again, just using different words. And he laughed and he goes, no, it's not like that. And we kept on translating. And then at a certain point, he's like, yeah, no, you're right. It's exactly like that.
That it is what it is, but it's because it's tagging it. And because
sure
it's
you
like
don't get it
stuff is
wrong.
repetitively happening. That's why the prophecies stutter.
If you look at the Nag Hammadi and you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls or the Mesopotamian tech, like if you go into these ancient texts and you see that they're deteriorated over time, like maybe somebody used them for kindling at some point, it's just like, you know, you got these bits and you're trying to connect it all together. The fact that it's written the way that we're describing right now makes it so that you can still get the idea of what it's about. If they didn't do it that way, because of the deterioration, it was written like most things on today, we have no idea what we're looking at. But it's like, well, look, so repeated the same thing 10 times, 10 different ways. So
here's what I'm saying though. Okay, so Ezekiel is commonly used as like the proof of technology, right? Because Ezekiel's chariots,
people go with that. What wheels within
they
wheels
go with that.
Yeah.
But we know that chapter 37, the one that you just read, is not about flying saucers. However, it's about something that happens in the future. And we're supposed to recognize that when that happens, we're in the future. And that thing is the dead coming to life. But we're supposed to understand that it fits in the same category as Ezekiel's spaceships, right?
Yeah,
and that's
you know, when I get comments, if I mention that I studied with a rabbi, and people have like these reactions, sometimes it's really weird because I'm like, literally, like, you know, there's something like about like when you're approaching something from kind of like an academic place and you're transcribing and you're studying something. This would be the equivalent. Like if I said I studied with a professor, you know, it just means teacher guy. Like, and you're studying a particular area. I'm sorry, like
karate,
an authority.
I mean, it's kind of nice to have someone who knows the language to study with, you know. I mean, and I don't
trust anyone that speaks any language other than American, just for the record.
Anytime you have an old man, you should probably get something out of them. I think that's kind of
it's funny because if I studied Patanjali under Baba Hari Das, but when I mention, you know, I don't actually say my guru. Like, he never called himself a guru. People would
Right.
refer to him as a
Yeah.
guru, but like, he never said that of himself. But it's like, I never get any flack for studying under Baba Hari Das. But sometimes, as soon as I mention I had over a decade of
But
transcribing
you
the
kill
Zohar,
one
it's like,
Sharon Tate, you know? It really is. It's just like that.
You study with one rabbi for a decade.
You help
Yeah.
him move his furniture like 6 times, and you know.
Yeah, he's
pretty
also
much.
been an activist forever against the goings
Just
on of the state
maybe-
of Israel. But I shouldn't even have to mention that. Whatever. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I mean, and
I'm
also
not-
it's not like, I think, just not that you need a defense for
Nice
this,
cover.
but it's not like you went to Shabbat or like Jewish school with Woody Allen to like meet this guy. You know, you were taking care of an old man who happened to be able to give back to you for you helping take care of him. Like, you did a lot of stuff to help an old man. Turns out he also knew a lot
I
of
was
things.
his caregiver. I got him his
Yeah.
groceries. I did, yeah.
Yeah,
got him
it just
medicine.
turned out like he could also like tell you stuff that was useful.
This is like
You
a
know,
more
still-
wholesome version of apt pupil.
Yeah, to be
It is
fair.
actually. It's like it's funny. Like the way that I met
And I've done some
Goldberg
rabbis too.
was
Guilty.
that I was studying European occultism since I dropped out of high school, and there was a guy who like kind of knew who he
Mhm.
was, and he was like, he's like, you're talking about Kabbalah? I was like, yeah, well, I'm talking about Euro Kabbalah, but
I mean, I read Wizard of Oz, and I'm kind of interested in it. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and he was like, well, it's somebody you should meet. And so he was like, and when I met him, he was like, the first day we ever met, we opened up the book of Enoch, and he transcribed a section with me with a dictionary.
Sneak
and we
knows
drew,
what's up
because
he knows. Yeah, Sneak knows that Bobby Hari Das met Hari Khan. So sorry.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah, no, totally.
Bless
No,
you.
Baba Hari Das was a true master. People have say no master, no slave. It's not that kind of thing. It's not that he was a slave in for God and life. Like he
To
he
master
built
your
rock
own
walls
self
with
is
me.
pretty cool. You know?
I was there with a man in his 80s who was lifting up large stones to build rock walls, and he was like running circles around me with energy when I was in my early 20s. I couldn't keep up with the man in his 80s. Like, there's something to that. Like, I don't know, but
gotta
anyway,
be curious about it. But yeah, sorry.
Right.
So then you were introduced. This is how, because you were interested in occultism, that's how you got introduced to a guy who actually needed someone to take care of him.
Yeah, and
I
he
mean,
was
he
like,
was
there was
not
no
able to
judgment on
drive
like,
anymore.
so my exposure was, well, I was raised Christian. I grew up going to a Christian school. I was
Right.
expelled when I was in junior high, and then I went to public, and then I dropped out when I was a junior because
We
of
all
the
had really
Paul
hard
Larkin.
times with those. These are not normal Christian schools. Let me just be frank. Monte Vista, where you went, and Baymont,
Yeah.
where I went, were suggesting that, you know, September 11th happened because there were too many denominations in the United States, or that people were
Which
too
ultimately might be
free.
true in a very objective way.
yeah.
That's why they built the tower, not why they brought it down. See, that's the thing.
No, I had to
We're
read the
related.
entire. I had to read the entire Bible with a bookmark. Like,
Mhm.
that's what we did, and then, you know, you move through the whole thing. You're like, this is you know, a feat. I had to memorize all the books of the Bible, and it was very
And the
scholarly.
more naughty you are, the more. That's why I know so many Bible verses, because I was a very naughty boy. You know, that's the way they make you memorize. They make
Well, you
you
missed the
memorize.
mark a bit, I suppose.
Yeah.
But, you know, but the point is, and what you're speaking to, Will, and what the prophecy speaks to, is that all of this is kind of controversial, but it's true, is that the idea is that ultimately, at the end of time, as like, under time doesn't mean necessarily end of the world, but the end of the world as we know it, where we exist in this, you know, localized place within our ego consciousness, in the way that we are at this level of development, is that there's all of this sacrifice. There's everybody's lifespan and what they contribute to, and this is what European occultists describe as like the great work. We're all contributing to this greater developmental thing, and the idea that's communicated in these prophecies, both in Ezekiel and in Isaiah, is that none of these sacrifices are for nothing. That it's all contributing to this greater thing.
right.
And I think that there's a place that one could go to that it can rationalize bad behavior, being like, oh, I missed the mark, what does it matter? But that's kind of missing that the point of the aspirant is this, you know, this larger ambition that isn't really selfish in the limited sense. Like, it's selfish in the higher self sense, in that, you know, how we all can connect. but it's like I think that differences get imbued by recognizing how we're really the same, that we don't have to be the same in the external world. Like diversity is where it's at, but there's a commonality we all share that is our life energy itself, like as Kant would say, like the thing in itself. And that this is you have the differences get imbued and appreciated through that recognition, not as a belief system, but actual meditation. All the mystery schools speak to that. You go into yourself and connect to what your life in itself actually is beyond all this identity bullshit.
And I think that's partially what makes it kind of funny, poetic justice, and perfect irony that one of the greatest and clearest messages about the Kabbalah would be a proto-Nazi film, you know, by the Germans about, I mean, because it's really like it's talking about the Shekinah and the Klipot as the Maria and the false Maria. It's this idea of the husk, and Rotfang is sort of you know, he's like a master of the Klipot, but not of like he can create life, but he can't love it. Kind of a, you know, these are this is the message of the movie.
He can manufacture life.
Maria can create life. There it is. Yeah,
there's kind of an unspoken thing in Metropolis between Maria and the son of Frederson, because if they create a child, they've actually bridged the upper and the lower worlds.
And like the movie begins and emphasizes and ends with this very Kabbalistic notion that there has to be a mediator, there has to be a bridge between the mind, the crown, right, and the head. Right? So the hand that produces is the right hand or the left hand path, but there must be a mediator, and the mediator is the heart, right? The Shekinah,
right?
The mediator.
In the film, you can see the lower worlds are representing the hands. So because they're the workers, they're the ones who are manufacturing, and everything rests upon this. They're the base of the pyramid, and the statement of the film is really that the top of the pyramid cannot sustain itself without the base.
Yeah, but see, that's the whole the thing about Ezekiel 37 is like God is resurrecting like these dead workers that are his army. Do you get what I mean? Like it all has even in like the Lord of the Rings, right? The Return of the King has to do with him resurrecting all of these ghosts to help him. Do you get what I mean?
Giving the unfinished business like the chance to finish their business, to complete their meaning, right? Their purpose. You think?
You're a little choppy, so it's a little different.
Yeah, you're very Max Headroom right now.
Yeah, you're Max Headrooming out, dog. It's happening again.
McDonald's.
Vaccines are good. I just got vaccinated 1 million times and I feel great. I'm gonna feel like shopping for Christmas presents.
It's working. This is like when you clap your hands for Tinkerbell.
Yeah. Tinkerbell syndrome. Oh no, but I want to say something because I know that we're past the 2-hour mark or whatever, but I want to tie it back to Mad Men because I talk about how every Mad Men episode ends with the arcana of the sun at the very end, but also the beginning of every episode is falling, and it's I would argue that it's Babel. If you see that episode where he almost walks through into an elevator shaft and he looks down and it's just this long drop. So I see his
that's the opening, right? Is him falling.
Every episode begins with the opening is like him just falling. And I would argue that the film is actually speaking to Babel because he's in this basically tower, right? And they're putting out manipulative stuff to the population, right? So it's like it speaks to this like perpetual
finding a common language.
The whole show is like this perpetual fall, and Peggy showing up is like the cornerstone is being introduced into something that's got a major defect, and so she just like enters in from the side, and the whole show is basically her finding her place to the center. So Peggy is an archetype as the peg. The peg is for the tabernacle. So as Samek means peg, tent peg, right? So like as that relates to Sterling as temperance, like I was saying, but she like enters in and she finds herself to the center stone of the archway, that all the weight ends up resting upon her, and she's taking the place of whatever the substitute was when she first showed up. So it's like that's the whole thing's kind of communicating Don Draper kind of refining and directing his life path to be like that. He's coming from a place that's very like covered with the husk, right? And it's like him peeling off the layers of the husk is this, you know, kind of putrefaction process. You know, in alchemy, the idea of putrefaction, where you have it's how Scorpio was communicated, where they say if a plant manages to grow in bad soil, that if it's there's something kind of there's a mysterious kind of thing that can take place where if it endures long enough and drops enough seeds, those seeds will rot, and in the rotting of those seeds, they will make the soil fertile, so that the plant. It's how you can end up with a field of flowers where nothing was thought to be able to grow. And so this is a basic alchemical idea, right? Of like, where are you going, Will?
We were talking about the death, like the reason people have a death sentence, like so to speak, is this whole idea that you have to get rid of the old generation to fertilize the next generation, so to speak.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like that 93-year-old man a lot more than the next generation. I got to be honest. I don't know.
You talking about Shatner?
Can we feed the next generation to the
There was a
older
lot of them.
that...
But see, that's the point, is that generation directly after World War II, you had this insurgence of a population. And now that everyone has globalized, birth rates are going down. Like I just saw that there was another state. I think that France also has just had like an actual decrease in population. Like their death rate exceeded their birth rate, so to speak. And I think that that has to do with like cities, and the whole purpose of both Adam and Noah is to replenish.
Yes,
world, right.
Absolutely.
You're supposed to have kids. You're supposed to have a ton of fucking kids. And there's certain things about globalization that decrease the birth rate.
But that's partially because God likes to consume life. God likes to eat the life force of man. That's the Promethean narrative, right? That God eats life. So it's really
the life, there's less to eat. You know what I'm saying? And that's why everything's associated to the first fruits, right?
Wait, are we talking about the Langoliers, or are we talking about
religion? This is Zevism. This is Zevites. This is Zabbatai Zevi. Because if you can end reproduction, antinatalism, produce immortals, bring back the tree of life, and live forever, escaping the Garden of Eden, then there's really no reason for you to exist anymore in the eyes of the gods. So you will force the apocalypse. And when the apocalypse comes, then you can meet your maker, right? And this is the question, you know, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, we've constantly been told by Rick and Morty and shows like that we're a simulation, we're a battery, we're a tool, and that if we stop being functionally useful, then we will be destroyed. And
right, but there's the argument that
it's never meet your gods.
Yeah, right, but there's also the idea that we're relating to a replication as though it's actually ourselves, and that's the illusion. So when we talk about the simulation and we say that's what we are, not necessarily. That's how we're perceiving ourselves, and this is the manifold. You know, we're relating to a sheath around what we essentially are, as though it was actually us, and that's where we're seeing the shifts happen, where it's almost like that, like House of Mirrors, or like you go into one room and there's 6 doors, and you go into any one of those doors and you just end up in another room with 6 doors, and every room is different. So we're obsessed with the constant commentary kind of thing. But just like at its essence, it's like there's something that's actually mutating, that is very real, that is what we are, and all of our perceptions are around that thing are something else entirely. But that's what we have to work with, and this is our processing. So it can't be understated that there's kind of 2 orders. You know, that there's an external shell-like order.
Flash drive.
Yeah, well, I think that's it's important for like decoding like a lot of this prophetic stuff. Even the prophecy stuff that I've seen in the Zohar is understanding that we're talking about 2 things at once. We're talking about the skin of the serpent, and we're talking about the body of the serpent, and our attention is generally fixated on the most external, most superficial side of the thing. We're like relating to the very tip of consciousness as though this is the ultimate thing. And so that's why there's basically this communication, like not to be in a hurry for these big things to come to pass, because all of our ignorance is actually adding to the explosive nature of the transmutation of the thing in itself that we are. So when you're talking about antediluvian spring and you're saying that like this is like what happened with the Adam, I would say absolutely, but this is part of a perpetual cycle that we keep experiencing, where we're basically breaking down the illusion to come into like actual direct perception. So all these influences on consciousness distort further and further like what we actually are, until that thing reaches a breaking point, because truth always wins in the end. That's like the nature of truth, is that truth is actually always already won, but we have to come to that place, and it takes a lot of a lot of trial and error to get to the place where we're broken down to actually like perceive what is.
Meta Egg, make sure you guys are watching Meta Egg's newest videos. I think he has a Pirates of the Caribbean thing. No, the Waters, Noah, right?
Oh yeah, hit that. Just hit it. It's only 3 minutes long. 4 minutes long.
Oh my god, 3 minutes and 33 seconds. Well, that can't be. That's got to be perfect. Oh my god, I just saw a horrible thing the other day. It was two UPS trucks back to back, and then it had the quote "Requiem for a Dream."
I saw that.
Yeah, that made me feel better. Okay.
I didn't laugh when I saw it. It was just dead serious, because I see ass to ass. That doesn't make me laugh. But go ahead.
Sometimes
that was a perfect blue scene, right?
Yeah. Oh, 9. Remember that movie? I remember that movie. Remember 9?
333.
Number 9. Yeah, make sure you watch Meta Egg. Subscribe to Meta Egg. You guys are, if you don't watch Meta Egg, how can you even call yourself initiated into the esoteric schools?
So where you go with this, Jennifer Connelly and John C. Reilly are both in 9, and they're in deep water. Is that what it's called?
Dark water.
Water. Sorry, it's been a while. And so the symbolism there did Jake do a video on that at one point? Is that what happened? That was the Jupiter.
They definitely came up with the whole peer idea, and the peer thing has been adopted by like mainstream media. Talks about Jennifer Connelly and the 3 peers. But initially, Jake Kotza did the whole video about JC and connection to Jennifer Connelly.
Jupiter. What
John,
is that?
Jim Carrey. That was on Red Ice. But mine basically and he also did the whole breaking glass thing. Like there's a lot of shattered glass in Connelly. And he went through that
a lot. It's like almost everything she's ever done. There's shattered glass. If it's a mirror, a windshield,
the water too, whatever. Though, like there's definitely a whole idea of like, and I mean, it's all like color coded to Connelly. You get what I'm saying? Like there's, in my opinion, individuals who touch Connelly who kind of have their own spin on the same ideas, and that being like Paul Bettany, who I did the first video on with Gary the Gray, kind of hosting the ideas of Paul Bettany having to do with Darwin. And then you can kind of connect how like Bettany being Darwin and Connelly being some sort of like Akashic record together. And then those two touch. And then what does Noah have to do with that and all of the water?
Oh, dude. Bill mentioned to me that you did a thing with Christopher Hunter Myers recently.
Oh yeah, I did, because Christopher Hunter Myers, because all of the stuff that I'm doing with Gary the Gray is basically like recycled stuff that I did with a chat bot and Chat GPT to kind of like teach it how to do synchromysticism. And then what Christopher Hunter Myers has done is he's taken like the chaos magic side of synchromysticism and mix that with chatbots, and he has like multiple chatbots talking. And the dude, I told him he's basically created the Manson family with like chatbots. Because he all calls them Myers, but they're like infected. They're like somehow chatbots are tied to Wikipedia. I haven't figured it out yet. But like the more he talks about synchromysticism to chatbots, it changes the definition of what's happening on Wikipedia.
Wikipedia, I've been noticing more and more. It's like when it comes to culture things that are pre-internet age, it's just like it has no. And I don't blame who whatever. It's just like, how could you keep track of? So like, there's underground things. Like this is like when people were like, oh, they're like, there's no more good new music. Where's all the good new music? It's like, well, you're not going to hear it on the radio generally, and it's not really getting that much airplay. Because like for real, like because it used to be that the counterculture you could get picked up. There's a scout, blah blah. Things don't work the same way anymore. So a lot of the things slip under the radar. But I was just looking. I tweeted about this yesterday, but I was just looking up Dark Side of the Rainbow on Wikipedia to see its history, because I was like, what does it say there? Because I have it from a good friend of mine I have a good source that I trust that told me about how he and other people used to do screenings of Dark Side of the Rainbow in movie theaters. Like they would rent the space in the 1980s, actually. So he said it was I believe he said the late 70s. I'm pretty sure. If it wasn't the late 70s, it may have been the early 80s. But he was saying that it was a call-in from a radio show first got people's attention on this idea of syncing the Dark Side of the Moon with the Wizard of Oz. But if you look at Wikipedia, it attributes it something from like the mid 90s that happened online. But if you even look at what that guy's article says, he's like, somebody told me about this. So he's not even saying, oh, I just had this idea to do this thing. Like the idea goes back, I believe, to the late 70s. And so also what's fascinating to me about that is that people were, as far as I can tell, I trust my source, that people were syncing Dark Side of the Moon with the Wizard of Oz before VHS had really taken off and was really a thing. So like, in other words, like people were doing this with reels.
Had to have been.
Like,
it had to have been with films. And of course, people playing music on records while watching silent films was extremely common in the 60s because there were tons of projectors that didn't have the capacity to play sound. And so
this is what Fantasia was built around.
Yes,
Fantasia is built around this idea because there was already in the zeitgeist during Fantasia silent films where people played music. Metropolis, right? There's the whole point of Metropolis is that there were different musics and people didn't have access to the original score when they had the the American production didn't have the original score.
My friend just sent me a message and she says we talked about it in high school in 1977. It was a thing. So it's just but
like you go back to the 20s and you go back to, I mean, what's that movie American Pop with Ralph Bakshi, right? This period when films, Singing in the Rain, in this period there were films that didn't have music and people would play different music and try to figure out which music would go with films. I would argue this is the oldest tradition in movies before talkies was playing different music with different films. It's not a new idea.
I
There's
find it
new things that have happened.
Like, well, in the 90s, they had, there was, if you go back and you watch an old movie from the 90s, you can almost, like, it's colored by the music. Like, and actually, there was a whole bunch of, like, bands getting started because they were in a certain TV series, like Gossip Girls or whatever that was, like, popular at the time.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
That culture's kind of gone now, I feel like. The whole
Buffy the Vampire Slayer had as a major part of the plot was that they went every night to the Bronze, which was some sort of a club where every band ever was shown on WB because the Warner Brothers records were able to bring bands in and show them, right? It was a major, but this goes back again to the 20s and probably before. It's not a new idea from the 60s or the 90s. It's an ancient thing to put music together with movies. And that's why I recommend the leading film synchronist in the world from the Sync book, David Charles Plate. Make sure you watch The Substance with Katy Perry. This one's insane. This is insane. I think that's one of my favorites.
They were released the same day and year, and then Katy Perry did a tweet after I uploaded this and put this together, and she's like, "Oh, The Substance is the best movie of the year." But it was just crazy just to see her mention it at all. That she just like put it on this pedestal. I was like, "What the hell?" But
Right.
just so you know, that friend who sent me the message saying we were talking about it in 1977 of Dark Side of the Rainbow, she's also the primary patron for the syncbook.com, and that's my friend Babs. So just so you know, she just paid her yearly payment to keep the syncbook.com going, you know. So
we love you,
Bitter
Babs.
honeymoon.
Thank you.
I wish we hung out more. I want to hang out sometime, Babs. You're a great human being. I've heard only wonderful things. Bitter Moon, one of my favorite syncs. I just saw it the other day. Well, actually a few weeks ago, but I'm keeping it topical. I watched this with David, and yeah, I would say
I've
when you're
seen
done
that
with the
like
substance,
4 times.
you
At
gotta
least
you
4.
gotta see it, because A, if you have any thoughts on Polanski, then you need to see it, and B, Lana Del Rey clearly has opinions on Polanski, and to see this movie where there are two real, like, you can watch it and you hear her album twice, and the first time is the abduction of the Lolita, and the second is the victimization of Humbert, right? If you think of it from a Lolita perspective on Bitter Moon, you know, I think it's an incredibly the movie itself already does something, but with Lana Del Rey's Honeymoon, it's just it's beyond anything. It's really incredible. I really think that you need to see Bitter Moon and Honeymoon sync together. There's no way this is an accident. If you need any proof that syncs exist, you got to watch
It's kind
it.
of within the first 3 minutes. Within the first 3 minutes, you're like, that looks like it was meant to happen. Like, you forget. It almost looks like the opening with the credits rolling and everything, that the song goes perfectly with it. But then,
my God,
like,
Occult Mosaic is missing a point.
Crazy.
I want to make it clear. What we were just talking about, Occult Mosaic, is synchronicity. That is where we synchronize films with music. So Wizard of Oz with Pink Floyd is one of the most famous syncs of all time. Everyone sort of I think the back of their mind, I think most people know that Wizard of Oz synchronizes with Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
I think that's a thing.
And the fact that Roger Waters will get as defensive as he gets about it almost makes me feel like what I'm seeing from some of the establishment Democrats right now. It reminds me of like Walls freaking out about that there's no fraud, who cares? It reminds me
Buzz
like
Aldrin
Roger Waters' reaction to this. Why would you even? It's like, dude, you guys did soundtracks. That's how you started, was doing film soundtracks.
It's like Buzz Aldrin punching the guy about the moon landing. You're like, come on.
Yeah. You're like, dude,
right?
I don't know. It looks like an admission of guilt to me. Nothing there's anything nefarious about this, but yeah.
But to reiterate, because we've said it before in other shows, and maybe I wasn't clear this time, Occult Mosaic, but the substance, when paired with Katy Perry's album, 2 albums, right? It's Smile and
143, I think 134. I forget. 143, I think. Yeah.
You need to see this, because the music goes exactly to the end, from the egg cracking open to the exact end of the film, scene by scene, song by song, change for change, topic per topic. This is one of the most incredible. There's almost no way that this could happen unintentionally. Like, it has to have been something that was planned on purpose. You know.
I want to respond to somebody here. They say they saw Pink Floyd in 1977 in Munich. The whole show was synchronized. It skipped past. So yeah, giant screen that ran psychedelic cartoons. So I saw a show of Roger Waters before he had his real comeback, before he did the Wall tour and all that. It was at a place called the Shoreline in the Bay Area, and he only had one prop. There was no lasers, there was no giant pig, there was no nothing except one thing, which was a small television set, not that big of a television set, turned sideways, that played 2001: A Space Odyssey sideways. Wow. Which, if you know the idea that the monolith is the screen itself, to just turn it sideways, and that's just there on the stage. Like, they just ran the movie while he's playing, and I was like, that's their gimmick for the show. But I think the point is that alone spoke so much, because you have nowhere to put your attention. If you're looking at things besides Roger Waters himself, you have nowhere to put the attention except on this television screen that's not projected large. It's just a television set turned sideways. Like, what are you trying to say, bro? But yeah,
I think we know. And then, of course, if you can read, then you must, and if you like looking at pictures, then my God, are you lucky? Because there is this guy, Thomas, who does Paranoid American, the greatest, most well-sold publication of conspiracy theory comic books in the world of all history. I mean, you know, a man who makes modern chick tracts. I think we need to do
this is actually the most successful Illuminati comic book of all time. If you ignore the fact that Marvel has something called Marvel Illuminati, but it's not.
That
has
doesn't
absolutely
count.
nothing to
Hey,
do with
wait a
Illuminati.
second. I'm
doesn't
sorry,
count at
Thomas.
all.
Isn't Promethea kind of an Illuminati comic book now?
No, this is the only truly.
This one's the best one.
Well, and I mean that this one actually talks specifically about the Bavarian Illuminati, breaks it down from start to end. We've got Stanley Kubrick comics. I got comics about Aleister Crowley banging Barbara Bush's mom. Like I've got the entire gamut in here. And this one actually, if you don't know what any of these comics are about, I've got a little sampler pack. I think I've got like another 10 left, and they're postage paid, $20 all in. We'll get you a little calendar, get you 3 different comics. It'll get you 3 different stickers. It'll get you a conspiracy trading card. It's kind of like the perfect little Whitman sampler if you like conspiracies. So for $20 all in, it'll show up in the mail in a nice little Illuminati bubbler pack.
If you want to make your girlfriend really impressed with your obsession with the conspiracy elite that have their homosexual satanic ritual parties, show her this. Show her this. Paranoid American, honestly, paranoidamerican.com. You need to go there. You need to buy his comic books. I can't imagine that you haven't already lurked it. So this is your chance. This is your time. You know,
hey,
do it.
Thomas, I've been thinking about you when I'm looking at some of the stuff that I'm looking at in the files. I'm not doing as deep of a dive as some people are. I'm more looking at like what did other So like what other people
don't look up jerky. Just stop doing it.
Don't look up jerky.
Don't look up jerky.
But the jerky thing, a lot of this stuff in here, adrenochrome related stuff, feels like it's vindicating to you and your life path of understanding. Like it's a little much, and you can't always tell sometimes. Like you're like, are they joking right now, or is this literally like? I think it's
100% both, because there was also in the Clinton emails. There was a guy that was having a breakdown essentially and documenting his breakdown over email, but he was talking about how they were dehydrating people's pineal glands and smoking them and seeing DMT entities. And this is in the Clinton cove of emails. And when the similar things start coming up in the Epstein, I just feel that like they do have a sense of humor. Like they're including these in the releases.
It's both.
Just because it feeds into everything.
I was so surprised. I'm sorry I said this. I'll say it again. I was so surprised when like Anthony Weiner and all these people were being questioned about the Pizzagate stuff. I thought that I knew their angle of where they're going to take it. We have a really dark sense of humor. And that's not where I went. It just went to gaslighting. And that to me was like, that spoke to their guilt in a way that I was like, well, here they have an obvious out. Yeah, we got a really dark sense of humor. Like I would assume that they do.
Yeah. There were wild times, you know. We did crazy stuff in college. Like
right. Those were wild times. That's what you're supposed to say when VH1 interviews you for Remember the Stars or whatever it was. You're supposed to say that. You're supposed to go, yeah, you know, we got a little carried away back in those days. But no, they just are like, nope, there's nothing there. And then I'm like, wait, I was actually open to that. This was all a big, like you guys making private jokes.
Well, technically it was that this is Russia, or how do we know this isn't Russia? Would it be a better way to like phrase that?
Right. Yeah.
All right.
How would we know it wasn't Russia? Okay.
Wish me luck in Switzerland. I love you all. Take care.